Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for This Week in Tech is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com.
This is Twit episode 582, recorded October 2nd, 2016. Who's capping who?
This Week in Tech is brought to you by Braintree. Mobile app development can be complex, but integrating your payments no longer has to be. With Braintree, your business can accept nearly every kind of payment from any device with just one easy integration. Learn more at BraintreePayments.com/twit. And by Squarespace. Make your business and online store stand out with the only platform that lets you create, manage, and brand your store in a beautiful way. Enter the offer code TWIT and get 10% off. And by Wealthfront. Wealthfront is a low-cost, automated investment service and the most sophisticated way to invest your money. Whether you've got millions or you're just starting out, visit wealthfront.com/twit and sign up to get your free, personalized investment portfolio. That's wealthfront.com/twit. And by FreshBooks, the super simple cloud accounting system that's giving thousands of freelancers and small businesses the tools to save time billing and get paid faster. Try it free at freshbooks.com/twit.
This is Twit. I'm Becky Worley, stepping in for the intrepid Leo Laporte, who is on a boat somewhere. I am ABC News technology and consumer correspondent. Good Morning America is where you see me most days. But when Uncle Leo hands over the keys to the news studio, oh yeah, it is on, and I am joined by three fabulous people in monitors. We shall start with Christina Warren, senior writer at Gizmodo Now. You've changed your course of action. Welcome, Christina. Where are you? You're in New York, right?
I am in New York. Yes.
All right. Okay. Well, welcome.
Thanks so much.
Jason Heiner, you are here. You look like you're at a yoga retreat there. That photo is very where your backdrop is very calming.
That's good. I'm working on that.
I saw that you were posting about the change to fall this week. You know, nature's finest hue is, what is it?
Robert Frost poem. Nature's first green is gold. Our hardest hue to hold.
Nothing gold can stay, but we've got some gold here.
Gold can stay. Beautiful. Yes.
I know it. I love it. Fall is in the air. Even here in California, there were these strange projectiles falling from the air as I was driving up here, and I had to switch on this new technical device that doesn't get used very much in California, where it removes the projectiles from the front of your windshield, and it was bizarre. Apparently, we had real rain in California today, so fall is here. In New Jersey.
Everything is legal in New Jersey.
Everything's legal in New Jersey.
Are those things called windshield lasers? I think they combat bugs and splatter and things like forth.
Oh, Dr. Owen JJ Stone in the heart with his lovely daughter in her soccer uniform coming in. He's in the midst of moving.
I'm doing a show.
He's podcasting, he's parenting, he's moving. The guy is amazing.
Go watch your show.
Multitasking.
Go watch your show. You're done packing. She's going to come ask me about tissues. Yes, I'm here. Oh, doctor, technology. There's a drone. It looks like a person, but it's really, that was my drone.
That's right. We've got @ODoctor as his handle. And I forgot to mention Jason Heiner is from Tech Republic and many other cool projects. You guys, thanks so much for joining me today.
Pleasure.
I think we should get right into it and talk about the big thing that we're expecting this week is Google's mystery, not so mysterious event. It's happening on the 4th, which is Tuesday, I do believe. The expectation is that a couple new phones, Pixel and Pixel XL. These aren't your Nexus type prototypes. We're not talking about guides for OEMs, competitors to something Samsung might make. I'll go through a couple of the specs and then I want to hear what you guys think. Rumored to be built by HTC, 5 or 5.5 inch AMOLED displays, quad-core 64-bit CPU, 4 gigs RAM, a 12 and 8 megapixel cameras, respectively. And this is the one, it was rumored to cost about $650. Why do you guys think they're codenamed Sailfish and Marlin? What?
Oh man, I stopped playing that game with code names a long time ago because it's like
Tillamook and all the ones that they used to have in the old days that made no sense.
Yeah.
Gallatin, remember those?
Blowfish.
Yeah, or remember back to when Microsoft used to pick all those mountains. It was all different mountains up in
Snoqualmie
Canada. Yeah. And so
Whistler.
A lot of them were Whistler. Whistler was a big one. That was the code name for Vista.
Yep. Yeah.
Ouch. They quit after that, and can't blame them.
They have to be picking names out of a hat. Like every employee gets a number, they pick a number out, and that employee just gets to name stuff.
Yell something.
Because he's a big fishing guy. Like, why else is that happening? There's no reason. Absolutely.
They're like
no reason.
inside jokes. Yeah, so often they're like inside jokes for the team. It's kind of fun though. It is fun.
These are trophy fish, game fish. I don't know. I mean, maybe this signifies that they're actually entering into the competition here, that they're not just creating these as reference designs, that these are really phones that are competitive and they want to go after Samsung. Christina, does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that, the Nexus line has never been financially successful. It's always been loved by the fans and the kind of the hardcore Android geeks have really liked those phones, but it's not like they've ever sold well. I mean, they used to they tried to sell them in stores, and then even the carriers were like, yeah, actually, no. So, I mean, I think that this is their latest attempt, and they've tried this a number of other times with other stuff to kind of say, hey, we're tired of the way the OEMs are using our software, or maybe not using it, not updating things as quickly as they should for both security updates and for, the way that Google really wants Android to look and feel. And so why not kind of have a really polished product that can go head to head with those guys?
I think that they
Owen, what do you think?
I think they should follow a model that I learned worked a long time ago. So long story short, NBA Live was one of the best basketball games available that you could play. Every console had it. It was number one selling. 2K brand could not break into the market and do anything. And what they did the one year, they just got tired of just losing money. They said, you know what? Here's the game for $19.99. We made a great game. We know it's great, but you won't buy it because you're not going to spend $60. But for $20, all the people that couldn't afford the $60 game bought that $20 game, and it was amazing. And in the uproar of everyone playing it has now crushed NBA Live to where it went out of existence for 3 years. Now it's trying to come back, but it can't compete with 2K. If you really wanted to get these phones in the hands of people, just bring the price down to a normal humanly rate price, and people would jump at the bit to get it, and then they would see the power that you have to push forward in a great device. But you won't, so you don't, so it won't, and it will.
No, I mean, they tried that with Nexus, though. They did try that. The last few Nexuses.
They didn't do the price thing at this point. I mean, I think that because that's the weird position they're in, right? Like, they, on the one hand, even when they owned Motorola, Google's always tried to play both sides of this. On the one hand, they made their own phones, but on the other hand, they're saying, oh, but please don't, fork us and make your own thing, because we love you, Samsung. We love you, Huawei. We love you, HTC. We love you, LG. Don't leave us. But yet, they clearly want to be able to have their own phones that can go head to head too. So they're in a weird position, because you're right. I think especially when you look at these low cost, high, spec Chinese smartphones, from OnePlus and from Xiaomi and people like that, Huawei. There's a potential market, especially on the Western world, to say we've got a phone like that you can buy that is going to get all the updates from Google. But I think the risk they would take by doing that, if they did kind of go all in and say we're going to undercut everybody price wise, is the people that are your partners might say, well, do we really want to work with you as closely, or should we look at, forking this? That's always the challenge. I mean, at this point, I think that the challenge of fork is probably less, but you don't necessarily want people to say we're gonna do our own thing. You don't want Samsung to say, well, enough with you, we'll just build our own thing.
Well, I'm not sure they really could compete on price, though. I mean, you look at, OnePlus 3. That device is major at $400. It's incredible.
It's a great phone.
What they've done. And then you look at Samsung. But they have all that. They're in China. They're embedded in that atmosphere where they can get really good access to low cost, high quality parts. Samsung, of course, because it has its own arm of these things where it makes them and then essentially sells them to themselves, right, from their other business units.
Right.
High quality at low cost. it's just tough to get that thing much lower than that. And so I think I suspect that they're doing the opposite. I mean, I think you're right, Owen. I think that would be smart to do. I don't know that they can play that game. So I think they're trying to play the other game, which is they're going to try to make a really high quality device, sell it essentially at as low a price as they can to break even, but to really try to push Android forward, not necessarily make a huge margin on that phone. But I think at $650, they're probably selling it as low as they can to turn a little bit of a profit, and put the super high-end hardware that they can to show what Android's really capable of. I mean, I think this thing better be good. As big of the billboards they've been putting up in New York, this device better be good. I wrote about that last week and saying, something they need to learn from Apple about hype. One of the reasons that the iPhone 7's been reviewed so well is Apple spent all year essentially tamping down expectations. It's not going to be redesigned. Oh, the new one's going to come next year, the 10-year anniversary. A lot of those were powered by what were very likely Apple leaks. So when this device did come out and all of a sudden the camera was a little better than what we thought, the battery life was better than what we thought, several other features were better than what we thought, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, this device is a winner. And so Google's doing a little bit of the opposite with they're sort of building up some hype for this device. And there's a thin line between creating interest and demand and sort of raising expectations to the point that, people are going to go, if this thing doesn't look a lot better than the, Galaxy Note 7 or the OnePlus 3, all of a sudden people are going to go, it's just a nice Android phone.
But it's an interesting tactic that's so different from what they've done in the past, because the Nexus has been so undersold. It's been so understated. Mm-hmm. And it's really had that sort of, this is a geek appeal only, and we're not going to push it to the mainstream. Secondarily, what a great time to kick Samsung in the shins.
Ooh, well, that was my basic point of now what you're saying. Everything you guys said sounds smart and technically sound, but right now my daughter has a OnePlus phone because she's 9. I don't feel like forking out 9 G's for a phone for a 9-year-old. So that's the first thing. So you can get that phone down to $400. You can't tell me that this phone is any much better than that, and they're still turning a profit. And how much profit do you make when you make 1 million phones and only 2 sell, and you got 30,000 of them in a warehouse waiting for a screen to break? You're not making any money. Right. So bring that price point down to maybe $450, $500. Make a couple of shekels and get that money. And Samsung's got the money for R&D when they can't stop their phones from exploding or their washers and dryers right now. They don't have time to start their own operating system. They better ride with all this free market and Android they can get, because they're going to have to pitch a new story on somebody. Like, hey, I know our phones blew up last year, but now we got Samsung Universe software. No, bro. Like, they're stuck. So hit them in the knees, drop that price, and maybe I'll buy one and give it to my dog or something.
Samsung, let's just take a quick tour through the week of Samsung. They say 1 million safe Galaxy Note 7s are now in the hands of consumers. Galaxy Note 7 sales expected to resume in Korea yesterday. The recall hitting 80% of completion. But I'm just reading the headlines. I mean, the Note 7 battery woes continue as the company investigates phones that are running too hot. And then what you alluded to, Odocta, is there was a big set of stories in the beginning of the week about Samsung washing machines, the tops blowing off and exploding. How much does that story undermine their overall QC and the quality of their products?
It just hurts their brand, right? It's a completely different business unit, completely different, unrelated. It's unrelated, but to a consumer, right, where it's like the political environment. It's completely reductionist, right? The narrative, the story is just that Samsung stuff explodes. It was the last thing they needed, and now all of a sudden, people, when they go and they got to buy a washer and they got to decide Samsung or LG, or a fridge or something, right? They're going to go, doesn't the Samsung stuff explode? And right, and so it hurts. It's a bad brand thing for them that they're going to have to deal with, and it's a shame because they do a lot of cool things that are done well. But like you alluded to, Becky, it gets at the issue of, do they have a quality control problem throughout the whole company? Is it a cultural problem? You sort of have to ask that.
And they kind of like. They have a problem because I had a Samsung washer and a dryer and a fridge, and all 3 of them broke right after the warranty went out. So I'm never buying Samsung appliances again. But that's my personal experience. That you don't hear that too often. But now, like you said, when you think about Samsung stuff, you're like, wait, don't this stuff catch on fire? I don't know about that fridge. Did the fridge like rob somebody? Like people start making up things in their mind.
Didn't this display have porn on it?
I saw that meme. That was a great meme. Whoever did that was a horrible person, but that's hysterical.
Well, the fridges, I mean, not the fridges, there were issues and recalls going back to the washing machines. This is not the first time that they've had to do recalls on the washing machines. They had to recall a ton of them, I think, in Australia because, they were doing stuff and there was somebody who got it fixed and then the repair wasn't fixed correctly and it ended up catching the house on fire. And so, these things are of course, I don't know if they're indicative of a systemic problem or not. But when all these things are kind of happening in the same year, it is cause for concern. Even though, as Jason says, they're in different divisions, and it looks real bad when you have this disaster with the Note 7, which great 80% completion rate, awesome. You know what? Once we get to 95, and once we get to 97, then I'll be impressed. 80% still means in the United States that we've got 200,000 phones, potentially blowing up. I was at a conference this week, and so I was in the air twice, and on both flights, the flight attendants are saying if you have a Galaxy, Note 7, it's got to be turned off completely. Well, on the second flight, she's actually walking through the cabin and is looking at phones. And she comes by and she sees me with my 7 Plus, and she's like, "Is that a Samsung?" I'm like, "No, this is an iPhone." But we talked about this when I was on a couple of weeks ago when the story broke, and I was on with Odocta, and we talked about it. It's like, well, how are they going to keep
how are they
find out
police that or even know?
And they're not, but just the fact that it's even gotten to the point that the flight attendants are looking at these things, and I think that anybody's going to be kind of weary of a Samsung is a problem, and it certainly looks really bad, even though they're totally different divisions, to have a 1-2 punch, to have all the phone issues, and then to also have. And we've already seen this before with the washing machines, but to have that be a problem too is just like they can't catch a break.
Doctor, I'm thinking about what you said about the price on that Google phone, and what's a question I have is that you would think that they would be able to get the price down because fundamentally they're subsidizing their ecosystem with more and more hardware out there, and they can control the experience on the software, on the ecosystem if it's a Google Direct phone. I'm wondering if that is a reason why they should bring that down, and if they need it at all, because if you're in the Android world, you're in the Android world.
It's one of those things where the market, the phone doesn't make you any money. Carriers subsidize the cost of the phone. Now they've done all this. Apple does what Apple does, and they're like, look, we need money. They're like crackheads. They figure out ways to get money out of everything. They said, oh, well, rent your phone from us. And then everybody stops giving you that super discount to keep you in a contract because they're like, well, we don't worry about contracts. We just want you to keep getting this phone. Now all the carriers are doing it, so now you're basically paying for the full phone to always get a new phone. But that old model worked for how many years? Or you were buying this phone for $299 or $399, and you would just be with that phone. If you just got the phone out there and that's the money you got for the phone, and it was great and people loved it, again, you could move mountains if you think your device is that good. If you think that you're pushing stuff forward and it's a solid device, get it in as many hands as possible because you're not doing a great job marketing. That's not going to help you. But again, like same thing we said about Samsung, stuff catching on fire in that lore. When people say, oh, man, I can't really afford a phone. Oh, I heard that Nexus phone's $299. Oh, what's that? Oh, they're the ones that make Android. I'll try that, whatever. That would work for you. But, I'm not marketing for the Nexus.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the challenge would be, I think they'd have to take a loss. And whether or not Google will be willing to take a loss on hardware, I don't know, because they haven't on any of their other devices ever historically. They've never taken a loss. I mean, maybe the Chromecast, maybe. But I think that probably sells in volume enough that they don't. But I think they'd have to take a loss, and they're probably not willing to do that. Considering, I mean, for everything, as much as everybody loves the Nexus lines, as we've discussed, I mean, that's never sold in large quantities. And Google, frankly, does not have, the Chromecast notwithstanding, any track record of selling any product from their own brand in mass quantities. Google has literally never sold a hardware product other than the Chromecast in large quantities where consumers actually
let's have a big event this week and roll out a whole bunch of hardware then.
Yeah.
So
they do hardware like Apple does software,
Right.
It's rough.
We've
brutal.
got the air fresheners coming out this week, Google Home. Wi-Fi speaker with access to music in the cloud, control it with your voice, Google Cast support, $129. It's $50 cheaper than Alexa. Remember, this is all rumored, but we're anticipating. We're anticipators here. We're
The air
speculators. Google Wi-Fi, its own branded Wi-Fi router. Device is going to cost $129, competing with Eero, competing with Luma, mesh networks. Do you guys have hope for this? Think it's something that's going to go?
Yeah,
I mean,
actually, I have the on. Sorry, I have the on. God, now I can't remember the name of it all of a sudden. The one that they released last year.
OnHub?
OnHub. Thank you, OnHub. And because they're right, like the routers do kind of stink. You know, I sort of end up always getting a new one about once a year because they have the old problem that Windows machines used to have of like bit rot. You know, you run it for a while and all of a sudden it's like it gets worse and worse. And so I did try the OnHub, and it's pretty good. It's one of the things that I like is it's a little. It was overpriced a bit, I thought, but you can the web interface on it is really good. You can look at it on your phone. You can reset it from your phone. You can see what devices are connected. It's a pretty decent router. So that one I think they have some competency in, right? Like web browsers, internet, like fiber, the building a internet router. Because this still gets to their core business and stuff that they're good at. I think these other devices, I think the Chromecast, I've got like 2 or 3 different Chromecast, different generations. They're all pretty lousy. They lose connectivity all the time. It's just kludgy to kind of get them to do things. I don't think that's a good product. So certainly I hope they improve that, and because it's a great idea and the price point's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, that's competitive with Eero, right? Which is about $500 for 3. Christine, you think this has got enough oomph to actually make it into the mainstream and get some volume?
Yeah, I mean, I think it could. I mean, because mesh routers are kind of the new hotness. You've got Eero and Luma, and I'm actually testing the Netgear Orbi right now, and I'm liking that. And I mean, that's kind of where routers are going. And these aren't the sorts of things that everybody buys, right? Like they're kind of a niche thing because most people are going to use the router that comes with their modem. The modem and router is usually one thing, so you get it from your cable company or whoever.
Don't do that, by the way. PSA, all you people out there listening, don't do it.
Agreed.
Go ahead, Chrissy.
No, you're right. But I think that having a Google branded router, even though I personally am too paranoid to ever want Google to have my router because I'm like, they already know 95% of the websites I visit, but I'd rather keep that 5% just like to myself. I'd like to have some internet traffic not tracked by Google someplace in the cloud.
What are you looking at?
I mean, you know what I'm looking at, but
I do know what you're looking at.
You know what I'm looking at, but no, I'd rather them not know everything. But I do think that this has potential, and I think that it would be interesting to see, especially if they can sell, how that'll work well with Google Home. If all these things can kind of work together, because that's one of the things. Even though Jason's right, Apple software is kind of like hit or miss. They've got the whole ecosystem. You've got the Airport Extreme, you've got the Apple TV, you've got the phones, you've got the computers, and I think for Google to have an ecosystem, you've got the Chromecast, you've got the routers, you've got the devices and all this other stuff. That could be interesting.
I love that the chat room is doing the ethical work for me. They've let me know that Eero is a sponsor of the Twit Network, so we got to put that out there. Thank you. But I would spend the $129 on this thing if it was a combination of Google Home and the mesh network. That makes sense to me.
Well, that's not a good enough price point. Like I rock the Airport Extreme. I tried one of the mesh services. My house is like 2,700 square feet, and it wasn't any better, faster, stronger than my Airport Extreme. So, I guess unless you live in the city or there's lead paint on your walls, maybe that mesh system is going to work a little bit better for you. But I mean, I've had this router for 4 or 5 years since it first came out, and it's still rock solid. And also just a pro tip for people that don't realize having the router added on with their router provided. When I use my router that's provided for me from Verizon, my top download speed is 78. When I go through the Airport Extreme, it jumps up to 98. So I don't know who's capping who, but this Airport Extreme is letting the water flow.
Who's capping who?
Buy your own modem.
Buy your own modem, buy your own router.
Yeah. I use the Airport Extreme. I used it for a long time. I had it for 3 or 4 years. And I also tried it about the same. I tried out one of the mesh network ones as well. and I had the same thing. I didn't get that much of a boost out of it, and that's when I switched to the to trying this Google one now, which has been pretty good and has given me a nice boost. But yeah, I agree. Like, if we could do nothing else, like, encourage everybody out there, buy your own modem, so you're not paying, $9-10 a month to your cable company, and get your own router. You'll get better speed boost, you'll get better performance, and you'll save money in the long run. It pays itself off usually within a year to 2 years.
The last big thing we're expecting from Google's event is Andromeda. Now, if anyone can really explain this to me, I will be so thankful. It sounds like an operating system where Chrome's peanut butter gets into Android's chocolate. Have I got that right?
You do. That's basically it.
Say it again. Say it again. Say it slow.
It sounds exciting. Chrome's peanut butter gets into Android's chocolate. Yes.
That's what I'm talking about.
What's the point of this? I mean, I know it's to go after MacBook Pro users. Is that what we're talking about? It's got a little bit more functionality than a mobile operating system. What are we talking about?
No, I think it's the other end. I think it's going after, MacBook Air users. Yeah. I mean, I think it's going after schools. It's going after the machine that you give to somebody who you're always supporting. That, basically you give them this and now they can get apps. They can do whatever they need to do, and they're not going to get themselves in trouble. They're not going to get, viruses, and boom, you're good.
Yeah, I think it's that. And I think that it's kind of, for many years we've been talking about, people like me have been predicting kind of the merging between Android and Chrome and Chrome OS and Android. And I think maybe this is like finally where we're finally seeing those two worlds meet, because if you look at what they're kind of doing on the Chromebooks and they're in beta testing, Chrome app, Android app support on Chromebooks, and you're getting, better, desktop support for some of the Android devices. I think that they've kind of figured out that those two worlds, these two operating systems as separate things, don't quite exist, because there are certain limitations when you just have Chrome OS. It's not quite powerful enough for this being always, connected operating system. It isn't always great for offline stuff. It doesn't have the apps. And at the same time, Android doesn't work really well with the mouse pointer. I know it can, but wasn't really designed. Well, okay, it was originally designed for that, but it then evolves to a touchscreen. And so I think that just having kind of this fusion of this world, I think Jason's right. I think it's really kind of the next step up from a Chromebook, of being like, well, this could actually be your replacement computer. This could be the thing that you have as your day-to-day machine, and it could still work with all of your apps and all of your services that you already know, but without it feeling as kludgy as, Android apps on Chrome OS feel.
But doesn't this make Google's ecosystem seem even more fractured, or is this replacing something and it's going to make it cleaner?
It's like two companies that merge, It's like two companies that merge. They start out and they're like, we're still going to keep both brands, and, we're going to be great partners and all that. When at the end of the day, like in 2 years, like one of them is toast, right? And I feel like that's the case. I think ultimately Google wants to replace Android with Chrome. It controls Chrome, that ecosystem, much more than it controls the Android ecosystem. And, we're seeing that with this move with the phone. We're seeing that with the move with them running their own laptop. Chrome is the ecosystem they make a lot more money on. You can, look that up. And so, this is just a step toward that. I think it's easy to see. That doesn't mean Android's going to go away completely.
No.
The Android kernel is going to be out there. Android devices are going to be out there. You're going to see, I think, companies like OnePlus, like Amazon, they're going to build their own things on Chrome and do all kinds of things. But I think Google wants to, since the split to Alpha, they're much more business-like. They're much more profit-focused. And, Chrome makes the money. Chrome they see as the future of their business. Android, they've had a number of challenges with. And ultimately, it's just not as financially viable for them in the long run. And so I think that this is just a step toward that.
And they're fighting in that phone booth that Microsoft is in right now with their Surface, where they keep telling me that a Surface does what a MacBook can't. It keeps telling me what an iPad can't. Like, they're trying to make it like a laptop, but it's so portable and you can do everything. I feel like they want to get into that mobile, a little bit more power space, but more portability. So Everybody's in the same space, trying to do the same thing, and they just want their piece of the pie.
Oh, Doctor, anything pie in the sky, one more thing that you would dream up that Google might surprise us with?
A Google Watch.
A Google Watch. Huh. Anything you guys think of that
Google
might be
knows
fun?
everything. Like, I could just talk to my watch and it could just do it. And my friends making faces at me, and I'm sorry, I got distracted. But yes, a Google Watch.
Google
A
Watch.
Google Watch.
Okay. All right. Well, you heard it here first. We are going to take a quick break. Leo Laporte, the host of this show, you may have heard of him. He is on a boat somewhere, Denmark-ish, Little Mermaid land. I'm Becky Worley, at B Worley on Twitter. But for the moment, we're going to hear Leo.
We'll have more with the great panel on This Week in Tech. Thank you for filling in for me while I'm gone. But I wanted to stop back and remind you about one of our great supporters and sponsors on this network, Braintree. If you're a mobile app developer and you want to include payments in your mobile app or your website, you got to know about Braintree. If you've done any research, I'm sure you've seen the name Braintree. It comes to you from PayPal, so it's got a great lineage. It's also used by everybody, and I think that should give you peace of mind. When Uber and Lyft both use Braintree in their payments, in their apps, that tells you something. Airbnb and Hotels Tonight. GitHub, right? I mean, these guys have the world is their oyster. They chose Braintree as their payment stack. Braintree's full stack payment platform not only supports every kind of payment now, Android Pay and Apple Pay, and, well, even Bitcoin, credit cards, of course, Venmo. It's a really good solution in that regard. When something new comes along, the next big thing, you don't have to worry about it. You just go to your Braintree control panel, check the box, and you're in. You're done. You'll be able to accept any kind of currency, from pounds to PayPal to that new payment system from any device, and it's just a few lines of code. It could not be easier. It's got everything you need. No late nights, no complicated recoding. And frankly, the security issues that alone with a shopping cart, you should not do it. You should let the pros do it. You don't have to worry about staying ahead of the curve. You've got plenty of other things to do with your app. Let Braintree handle the payments. Simple, secure, code you can integrate quickly. Android, iOS, JavaScript, as .NET, Node.js, Java, Perl, PHP, Python, Ruby. It's clear code, clear documentation, and it lets you do what you do best while they do what they do best. And you know who's happiest? Your users. They love it. You love it when you use an Uber or a Lyft, right? BraintreePayments.com/twit. Give them a try today. Now we go back to the news of the week with This Week in Tech.
Leo Laporte, thank you ever so much. Leo's on vacation. He's just making virtual appearances, but I am joined, thankfully, by Owen JJ Stone, Doctor on Twitter. He is an amazing man. He is multitasking like you've never seen. Right now, he's speaking with his daughter, I think, letting her know what she needs to be doing. Yes, Doctor, I'm talking to you. Jason Heiner, Tech Republic, CBS Interactive. Thank you for joining us. And
good to be here.
Glad to have you. And Christina Warren from Gizmodo, senior writer there and in the know about all things tech. Notable this week, Elon Musk. He has a plan for our future, colonizing Mars at the International Astronautical Conference in Guadalajara, Mexico. He gave a talk. It was called Making Humans a Multiplanetary Species. And this is his idea for getting to Mars. SpaceX. I'm going to break down the specifics because that's basically what Elon did. It was incredible. And, whenever he does this, when he gets into the nitty-gritty of talking about his absolutely insane plans, it sort of boggles my mind at how bored he sounds talking about these amazing ideas and seemingly impossible to execute concepts. So I will try not to go at it with the same sense of like, oh, yes, when we go to Mars, boredom. But let me just try and break this down for you. So SpaceX would use reusable BFRs. These are big bleep rockets, along with the BFS, big bleep spaceship. Raptor rockets capable of 680,000 pounds of thrust. The ship would carry 100 tons of cargo. Once in orbit, it would be refueled. Then it takes off for Mars. He really got down to the nitty-gritty in terms of cost. So right now, he says it would cost about $10 billion per person to send someone to Mars. His goal is to scale this down, just make it the economies of scale work for him, targeting $200,000 per person, eventually $100,000. He's all about reusable parts. Trips take 100 people at a time. The spaceship would have movie rooms, cafeterias, entertainment options. He says it would be a really fun place. That's his quote, a fun place. I don't know how long you'd have to be on that ship. That's sort of terrifying. He's targeting 2022 for these flights. Public and private organizations are going to help fund the missions, and 1 million humans could live on Mars by the 2060s. Are you guys in? You going?
Can I break in on this report real quick, just for 2 seconds?
Whoa! You've been hijacked.
This is my buddy Tony. Say hi to people, Tony.
Hi, how's it going?
Tony, what's your college degree?
I have a bachelor's degree in marine science with a concentration in marine biology.
What's your current job right now?
Jet mechanic.
For what? For who?
The United States Air Force.
So basically, Tony's a really smart guy, just trying to do this as quick as possible. So reference. Tony, are we going to Mars?
No, not
How long would it take us to get to Mars?
Tony's face expresses skepticism for those of you listening.
How long, Tony? Just give me an estimated time period, like a year.
I'm not a long time.
50,000, 20,000?
No, like a long time.
Like 100,000?
More than 10 years.
More than 10?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all I need.
That's all I need. Good.
So the big brain sitting next to you, Odocta, says this is total malarkey.
We're not going to Mars. We're not going to Mars. First of all, I'm going to let you guys talk, but let me just say this. I love Elon Musk. I love the sun. I love the solar. I love Hyperloop. I love most of the things he talks about. But for Pete's sake, could you just use that big brain and all this money you want to put into a desert rock planet that doesn't sustain life and fix the planet we got right now? Can we figure out a way to stop killing all these bees in the ocean so we can have the planet we got right here for some sustainability? Can we get $10 billion to just clean up the homeless and give them a job or something instead of per person to put them on a planet that can't sustain life? Can we do that? Elon, I love you so much, and I hate the way you manipulate the stock market and my heart. But shut up about Mars and your little ship that crashes half the time that ain't gonna be able to land on no. Just stop it. We ain't going to Mars. We ain't going to Mars. We ain't going to Mars. Now go ahead and talk about it.
That's it for Twit. Thanks for joining us.
How do you respond to that?
I love the man so much. Like give me the sun, Elon. Fix this Earth we got, because broke people can't get to Mars. So you gonna send these rich? Okay, Jason Calacanis is gonna be the first person to Mars. He ain't no engineer. He ain't no mechanic. He can't fix nothing. What's he gonna do? Complain about the weather? Like we need grunt workers to get to. It's not gonna happen, bro.
That's a perfect segue to something I learned last week. So the same day that Elon announced this, when I was at this event, Idea Festival last week, which is an innovation event, but it's like TED. TED cost you like $10,000, right? This event cost you like $100, $200. But it's the same kind of people, right? Talking about big ideas. So the day that Elon was talking his big ideas about Mars, there was somebody there, one of the candidates for Mars One. So there's this nonprofit organization called Mars One. They do a lot of work with. It's an international-based organization. They do a lot of work with NASA. But there's a Mars One candidate. They've got this down to 100 candidates. It's this MIT systems analyst named Yari Golden Castellano. And so she was at Idea Festival talking about the fact, and I had no idea about this. I hadn't heard of this, but it was ironically early. It was that morning, and then Elon made his presentation that afternoon. So I knew more about Mars by the time he did it. So Mars One is this group that they're basically sending scientists, people who can go and study it, because what they found is that we've sent it's not space tourism. It's they're trying to get some scientists to go up there and do the same thing that ultimately Elon's worried about, which is if we trash this planet, what are we going to do? And so we've sort of reached the limits. What Mars One, posits is that we've reached the limits of what we can do with robots. right? We actually have to send some people there. But sending them and getting them back is the hard thing. So they want to take a group of 24 people, interdisciplinary, send them to Mars, create this colony with these 24 people, these scientists. And so because of that, they're working on, so one of the things that Yari is working on that she talked about, we have a video of this on Tech Republic. We got an interview with her afterward. She's working on this laser-based communication so that, because right now it takes anywhere from several minutes to almost an hour to get a communication from Mars to Earth. And so this laser-based satellite communication, basically super high-speed networking, will send it a lot faster. But the idea is the stuff, and she's working on this at MIT, and with the idea of hoping that she's going to be one of the candidates on this. But if not, at least she can develop technology that's going to help. And oh, by the way, this technology, to get at your point, Odakta, is that this technology could actually help us here on Earth too. And so like a lot of the space technology, right? A lot of the stuff that went into the space program ended up, it was okay and it did interesting things for the space program, but the record of the kind of advances that they gave to the tech industry is huge. And so that's the bigger benefit to a lot of this stuff. I think for Elon's case, he's sort of the showman. And so his is sort of the P.T. Barnum version of the Mars story. Right. But there are other people who are working on this as well. And it's important not to forget that. Their goal is they want to send someone to Mars by 2027, and they are working toward that. They just narrowed down their 100 candidates. Next year, in 2017, they're going to name the 24 candidates, and then they're working toward this for over the next decade.
Christina, you buying it?
No, I mean, I think eventually, yeah, I think eventually, I think that because there is real science happening and there's real, potential for space exploration, I think, will we get there? Sure. I think not to discount Elon, because I think that what he's doing is important just insofar that it gets people paying attention. It's exciting. But to Jason's point, I mean, he's very much a P.T. Barnum sort of guy. And I mean, I think making these proclamations like, 2022, like that's so close. Like, come on now. Like let's be real. I also really appreciate, I guess it's sort of funny to me, the way that he kind of phrases this. He's like, well, you could die on this mission. So please pay me $500,000 to go on this mission where you might die. And I'm not willing to go yet until I know that someone can take over my companies, because this is basically kind of a suicide mission. And so part of me is kind of I'm intrigued by, I think, what like space exploration could do, but I'm a little bit, I guess, bothered by, even though I know that fundamentally what some of the things that Elon Musk wants to do have like broader technology and scientific, I guess, pursuits at their core. So much of it does seem to just be about, space tourism, which to me, it's kind of bothersome because the last thing that at least that I want, in the way it's already kind of seeming like how it's being sold now, is this is kind of being sold like, the modern era of climbing Mount Everest, where it's just rich people who like pay $100,000 and go and climb the mountain because they can. And this is going to be a thing where people who are rich enough to go to Mars will go, versus people who are actually looking at discovering, other systems and what's habitable and what's not, and discovering technologies that might have, pursuits other places. I don't know. The whole thing is kind of like, I'm also his whole description of Mars. All I can think about is the movie WALL-E and be like, yeah, okay, so we're just all gonna, be on this other planet, sitting, in stasis, not moving around, just eating and watching TV. And that's
the chat room says the best place on Mars is the best place on Mars is worse than the worst place on Earth. And yeah, Elon described, not only is the trip there on this massive ship going to be fun because there'll be movie theaters, according to Elon, because they have movie theaters on my plane to New York that I take every couple weeks. That's not so much fun. But anyways, he also said it would be a lot of fun on Mars because the gravity's low. But one thing that struck me, and I kind of feel like a dummy that I didn't I'm sure everyone else has thought of this before, but it really struck me in his talk how, when we think about all of the space exploration and all of the technology innovations that came out of that when we did this through NASA and the moonshot, and how those spawned so many businesses and so much entrepreneurship and innovation as those engineers spun out of the government programs and started their own companies, but that now it's privatized from the start here with Elon.
Right.
And so he was talking about on the ship, once it's launched and it's en route to Mars, that the solar arrays will deploy. And I thought, of course, solar, Elon, Solar City. Then, of course, that'll be putting itself, it'll be storing energy into batteries, which will be a part of everything he's doing with Tesla. Then there's just all the engines that he's going to be innovating, that he's doing obviously now with SpaceX, but there's got to be a crossover with Hyperloop or with Tesla, and realizing that all of this innovation and privatization of innovation is going to be in one. It's a publicly traded company, but in one company's auspices, and they will own all of that. And that kind of it just dawned on me, wow, all these pieces fit together. His brain is really big.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Talk about his brain.
I was just going to say, no, you're right. I was going to say his brain is huge, but that is sort of problematic, though, isn't it? Because, you're pointing out, like, he's obviously seeing all these puzzles and how it works for him. But, but something like, I think that the travel to another planet should be about bigger than just one public company, one private enterprise.
He is nice enough to say, yo, I know you guys are trying to make cars that are electric. You don't know how to do it. Here's the patent. I'm just letting it go. I'm not going to fight you guys in court anymore. He seems like a decent enough guy when he's not being an insane sociopath. I'm just saying, you told me that we could run the whole world on solar, and we know that. But guess what? Human beings can't get together to go take some land out in North Dakota, build a solar farm, and give everybody free electricity. We can't do that. And guess what? Hyperloop, I haven't seen it. We got a test trap that's probably scrambling eggs and small chickens' brains somewhere out in the desert. So until you can give me free power.
The company's in chaos. The Hyperloop stuff, the drama there is fantastic.
Because, again, we're just going to Mars and eating cookies and dough on the ice cream and watching the ship. You can't get Hyperloop together. We ain't even got our solar farms yet. Would you just pump the brakes, bro? Like, are we living in domes? We're not going to Mars. We're not going to Mars. We're not going to Mars.
Can we get the Model 3 in mass production first?
Right.
Yeah, right. I'm just saying, he just sounds like a little kid that's got Play-Doh and is telling me how he's going to make a store and he's going to have millions of dollars cut. And I'm like, but Doug, it's Play-Doh. Trust me. I'm going to make this store out of Play-Doh and we're going to be rich, Dad. And I'm just like, okay, kid, go in your room and imagine it. Like,
I always thought of space as, it makes me, I think I'm space phobic because it makes me feel like there's this dystopian future that's right around the corner that's going to come crashing down on my children. So this like dystopian, space phobic, didn't want to even pay attention. Somehow Elon talking about it and making it sound so boring and so doable, even in his delusional mind, I will totally give you that, Odocta. But logical delusional. Maybe that's too contradictory to be real. But Jason, what do you think? Is there a logical insanity here?
Yeah, I think the thing about Elon is in the truest sense of the word, and it gets overused. He's a true visionary. Like the guy dreams in, he sits around daydreaming and wishes he didn't have to eat. He's talked about the fact that how much he liked the idea of something like Soylent, because then he could take all, this 43 minutes a day that it takes to eat meals and get rid of that and put it in a more productive time, like dreaming about Mars, right? And solar power and all of these kinds of things. And so I think that, Elon sets these super aggressive goals. His companies never get there. But on the way to trying to get there, they get to things faster than other companies, right? Tesla's way far ahead in battery technology.
Yeah.
They're way far ahead in electric vehicles. They're way far ahead in a lot of these things because he sets these crazy, stupid, aggressive goals that we're going to accomplish this massively hard thing by this time. And that's what leaders do, right? Leaders push, leaders reach, leaders get you to get more out of you than you thought was possible. And so I agree with everybody on the panel. 2022 it's not happening. It is not happening. 2027, this other Mars. One group, maybe Elon falls somewhere in there. Like I said, it sounds very P.T. Barnum to me. It sounds maybe 20 years off. But I think that I can't remember, somebody said the fact about how passionate he was talking about this, even compared to some of the other, I think it was you, Becky, even compared to some of the other stuff he does where he is reasonably passionate. I think this is the thing that gets him up in the morning. I think this whole Mars thing. And I'll give you, Owen, the fact that there's some bigger problems I wish he would spend his time focusing on, because, the guy does have some serious brain power.
If you're going to dream big, look me in my face and tell me, you know what? We have problems with the coral reefs. And if you don't know anything about the coral reefs, it impacts the fishing community. The fishing community impacts the people on land and, the food industry, because chickens and all that, they eat fish meal, but you don't understand how much fish is in. And we get, hey, Elon Musk, come out and tell me you're going to solve that problem in 10 years, and I'll strip butt naked and run through these streets. Not that anybody wants to see it, but I'd be so happy and proud, just like you told me, that we can take this small patch of land and power the world. Like, I understand about vision. I got a lot of vision. I got a vision of a machine that I could sit in and just lose weight and not do anything. It just melts off the fat. I can envision it. It ain't gonna happen. It sounds like it's a cool thing. By 2027, I can be 150 pounds. It's just saying that he just thinks the fun stuff doesn't make it a vision. He sounds like a little kid sometimes when he gets all hyped up on this stuff, and he moves mountains with his words. If he told you he liked cookie dough, the stock market would triple within the next half hour after a tweet. The man's got too much power. Fix the planet first before you start going to a red desert with nothing on it. I'm not going to yell about it anymore. It just makes me really upset.
You know what he never talks about
is connected, though. Sorry,
it is.
Ahead, Becky.
It's all interconnected. And what's interesting about that, Odocta, is that he never talks about political will or the moral will to do some of these things. He's only dealing with what he has under his control. And what's incredible is how much control he actually has.
It's growing, and it's only going to keep growing, too, yeah.
He's ruling his kingdom with an iron fist, that's for sure.
Well, we are living in the kingdom of Leo Laporte, and so long as I'm just sitting on the throne here temporarily, I must take a break. I'm going to let you guys go drink some Soylent, and Leo's going to tell us one of the sponsors of the show is.
The crown fits you well.
Our show today brought to you, thank you, folks, and we'll be right back to the panel in just a moment, but I wanted to tell you about Squarespace, because I'm a happy Squarespace customer. I have been for years. They've been a sponsor of our shows for years. In fact, we've grown with them, which is really nice. Squarespace is the place to make your next website, whether it's a blog, a portfolio, an online store. They are the best templates with the best design and the best engineering. So your site not only looks beautiful, but works beautifully in a modern way. Things like mobile responsive design. Used to be you'd have a separate mobile site and a desktop site. That's nuts, because now you don't know what size screen people are going to visit your site on. But Squarespace handles it from a 50-inch big screen monitor all the way down to a 4-inch iPhone 4. Your site's going to look great. And, by the way, built-in commerce on every Squarespace site, optimized for mobile. So it's easy for the mobile shopper. You can sell unlimited products. They don't charge you transaction fees. They support you with all the tools you need. And, of course, all your data and financial information is safe. Your customers will appreciate that. They're also looking, and I think this is really one of the few platforms that does this, at a shopping cart that matches your site, because it's all the same template. So it's not like, oh, here's a shopping cart hung off the side of your site. It is your site. With a Squarespace dashboard, you can manage your business's workflow. You can offer fast customer service that's built in. You could process orders, send shipment notifications, handle refunds in seconds. Again, built in. They're using some of the best providers in the business to do all of that stuff. Fulfill orders, manage product inventory, resolve customer issues. You can even do it from your Squarespace app on iOS or Android. They have a commerce app. So you're on the go and you're handling customer inquiries. That's awesome. Power your business with the best Squarespace commerce. There's a basic plan and an advanced plan. Great features, whatever size your business is, and they'll grow with your business. And, of course, you're accepting payments instantly. Plus, all the great stuff Squarespace usually offers. Free domains with an annual purchase, professional design, the ability, though, to go under the hood and get geeky with it. There's a full developer platform, 24/7 customer support from Squarespace directly from their offices. Everything is great about Squarespace. I love it. I'm happy, a happy Squarespace customer. You will be too. So try it for free. Squarespace.com. Make sure you use the offer code TWIT. You'll get 10% off when you buy. So try it free, but if you decide to buy, the offer code is TWIT, 10% off. They'll know you heard it here. And, we have such a great relationship with them. We have been with them for so long. Squarespace.com, the place to make your next website.
Thank you, Uncle Leo. I drank all the Soylent that was in the back. Tastes just like graham crackers. Yum. I'm Becky Worley at B Worley on Twitter, joined by Christina Warren of Gizmodo and Odocta and Jason Heiner of Tech Republic. Guys, it's a big week, a big time of the year for drones. We're going into the holiday season, so the hardware is rolling out so people can start thinking about what they're going to buy on the Black Friday. DJI this week came out with the Mavic, foldable $1,000 drone, fits in the palm of your hand. Without the controller, you can get it for $750. If you get it with the controller, you can wedge your phone in, and the phone gives you a viewer for the drone's camera. That's the $1,000 option. Has a built-in camera, follow me function. It has a gimbal on it. For something mile radius, I can't remember exactly what, you can go 4 miles from the controller. Now, what's interesting here is the Karma from GoPro announced last week. Roughly about the same. It's about $1,100 when it's bundled with the GoPro Hero 5 Black. Again, gimbal stabilized. Although you can remove that and have sort of a gyroscopic stabilizer if you want. With the GoPro Karma. So, is it fair to be comparing apples to oranges here when we're looking at these two pieces of hardware, Christina? And is GoPro grasping at straws here, trying to do this as an all-in-one?
I don't know if they're grasping at straws, but I do think that they are two different products. So, but I think that they end up trying to kind of accomplish the same thing. So I think GoPro's in a little bit of an interesting position in that they have a lot of people coming at them from all sides. You have, drone makers, you have other gimbal things, you have, frankly, smartphones. You have a lot of people who are doing these things, and they used to be kind of in a unique position, and now their product has kind of become commoditized. So it's hard to say.
Oh, Doctor, are we looking at drones as being sort of old news and they were a fun toy for a while and then meh?
So I'm on record at yelling at Uncle Leo repeatedly on the show as a drone hater. I don't like drones. They drop bombs on people. They stalk people, and they show me firework things that I saw one year, and that was good enough to just put it on a loop. But I will say that these two drones are awesome, and I want this DJI drone in my life. I'm now a hypocrite because this is what I want. I wanted a drone that was small enough to fit in my pocket, to follow me like a dog, and to be my friend when I have no friends. This little drone is amazing. Now, GoPro's problem was that GoPro was a victim of their own success. They made something that was awesome, and people stopped buying new GoPros. They're like, why do I need a new GoPro? This one shoots 4K. What's the other one? 4K unlimited? Like, you just start making up stuff. It's the same thing, so people stop buying it. So now they got to expand their market, expand their brand to go get at some of the other people, as Christina said, we're coming after them. So now they're going out there trying to expand themselves, and their drone looks cool. Their drone's great. It comes out with a detachable gimbal, but guess what? My big butt ain't going down no mountainside, so I don't need that. I need that DJI where I can go like this, and I can wave it like that. Like I said, I need somebody to talk to. I ain't got that many friends. People don't like me. I don't know if you can tell. I'm crazy. But if I had a drone that could just do what I wanted it to do, I need it in my life. Anybody wants to donate money, my birthday is in it's 15 days. If you could just send me $5, $10, $15, they don't take it like 100 of y'all. I could get one. I'm just saying, back to the show. When we talk about drones, I don't know if people like drones. Some people do, some people don't.
Well, you mentioned that this drone has some recognition, gesture recognition. If you make a square around your face, it zooms in and you can get
It'll follow you.
So
It'll follow you. It's got
it will follow you. See, Doctor, you want a dog. You want a pet drone is what you really want.
I want to do as little work as possible. Okay, I wake up with these eyebrows like this. This is all natural. I don't want to do no extra work. If the drone does all the work for me, all the better for me. These are drones I can live with. These drones look fun.
I just can't. I mean, Jason, do you see, we saw remember the Lily drone was a big Kickstarter video that they had out, and it was like you threw it up in the air and then you started down the mountain snowboarding, and it would follow you at the perfect distance.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't feel like that's really materializing here, but some of this stuff in terms of creating flight paths that you can pre-program in advance, having it hone in on the controller and follow the controller. I don't know if it's snowboard ready, but it's a lot more functional than some of the really difficult to pilot drones that I've tried and lost.
Yeah. It's true. I remember seeing one. It's funny. It was last August at the the Intel Developer Forum, IDF, in San Francisco. There's a drone maker. I can't even remember the name of it, but it was like a bracelet. The drone was literally wrapped around your wrist.
Right,
Like,
I saw
I don't
that.
know how
Oh, yeah, I remember that too.
Take it off and you chuck it right in the air, and it like automatically sees you and follows you, and it connects to your phone and sends the photos.
Nixie, it was called. The first wearable camera that can fly.
Perfect. But I don't.
There
think
is so much vaporware here. Holy crap!
There's so much.
Exactly. Exactly.
And that's the difference between what you were talking about with Lily. These are two companies that are viable and putting out the
I was
product.
gonna say,
next
these are
month.
actually out.
Like these are real. Like
these
that
are real
Lily
products.
thing. I thought the Lily thing was cool. I'm like, oh, Lily's playing soccer. I put the little bracelet on her to follow around the field. I can get some great footage. Guess what? Thing never came out. The stuff you're waiting on doesn't happen. But DJI knows what they're doing. GoPro knows what they're doing. We're going to get these products, and these products are actually going to have all those elusive features that will help the average person get into drone wear.
Christina,
I
I know one of the things that GoPro's been trying to do is to market their cameras, their products more to families as opposed to extreme athletes. And while this drone definitely helps them create more sort of vertical penetration in that extreme athlete market, it doesn't really help them with the moms.
No, I mean, I'm not a parent, but yeah, I don't really see. I think if anything, it almost was it maybe potentially even makes it scarier. I mean, I think that not scarier, but I guess less appealing. Because you're like, oh, I've got this flying thing, and do I want this around my kids or my pets or whatever? Whereas I think But you're right, because GoPro has been trying to kind of say like, hey, this is this perfect thing to take on vacation with you, and you can do all these other things with it, and it'll capture moments that you wouldn't be able to capture in other ways. I guess they could sell it potentially that way if you've got this really easy to use drone that you could help capture memories or moments that you wouldn't be able to capture otherwise. I don't know, but I feel like this is definitely, they see that everybody is strapping a GoPro to a drone, where they're using the cameras that are built into some of these other systems instead of a GoPro, and they're saying let's just eliminate the middleman and just do our all-in-one package, which makes sense. But it's people are very committed, or a lot of drone heads are very committed to their brand of choice, and that's an area where DJI definitely has a huge advantage. People love their products.
I feel like the barrier to entry with both of these products is video editing. I mean, even
totally.
Nick Woodman at GoPro,
point.
he told me he has his children's entire childhood is trapped on SD cards. And has anybody tried out the new cloud editing software that GoPro put out? I mean, it seems like one of those intractable problems, editing, that nobody's come up with a good solution for the consumer.
Yeah, the biggest problem with the GoPros too is like because of the very fisheye-ness of their cameras.
Exactly.
You got to correct it. Yeah, you got to correct it as soon as you import that video. It's like, okay, yeah, and then that takes, it's like a second render, right? And so
totally,
it's pain.
There'd be a huge opportunity for someone like Apple or even Microsoft, if they cared enough, to like have a filter, a plugin that would say, we recognize this footage is coming from a drone. We're applying the effect. We're going to help add music to it, because that was part of what made iMovie so successful, right? And like got so many people to just be able to edit movies the right way. I think if they'd be willing, and I don't think that they are. I think they've all but abandoned iMovie to a certain extent. Like Karen said, hey, we'll have it plug in with your drone stuff or your GoPro stuff, and Apple and GoPro have worked together in the past. That would actually be really smart.
That is one of the things where the mobile app for editing is better than the application on the computer sometimes.
Totally.
I have the DJI and I can edit on my phone. And sometimes it's just easier, especially for a novice, just to do a couple quick edits. And you're like, wow, this is pretty good for the phone. You go load it up on your computer. I'm like, what is all this? And why is it like this? They need to have it sounds stupid, but a dumbed down version that just works. And that fisheye is just a huge problem. That's why I stopped using my GoPro. Once I got this, I got the DJI Osmo. Once I got that thing, I stopped using my Hero because I didn't feel like that extra render. And I know better. I feel like I'm losing quality. And again, I don't want to lose quality. I don't want to extra render. I ain't got time for that. So they need to do something, even if it's just on a mobile platform, because everybody's got a phone nowadays. The screens are so much bigger. They need to focus on tightening that up possibly to help people out. The problem is with that, 4K video, file size huge, blah, 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 blah. That's their job, not ours. But Christina was on the nose with that partnership thing. Somebody should do it.
Well, they have that new app, Quick, QUIK, which is their mobile video editing thing, which has some potential. It's a pretty decent little deal.
Yeah.
That's the one you're talking about, right?
Yeah, that'll be a big change, I think, when hopefully, I just am amazed at how many videos I have. When my kids were little, I would take the time to make make cuts and put music underneath. And
Sure.
Oh, God, now it's like.
And now you're just like, really? No.
Yeah.
That's the first kid. I did that with the first kid.
First
all
kid
the
syndrome.
video. Second kid, nothing. I mean, I look back, it's like 2 phone videos from 10
Child
years.
did not exist.
Let me look at you. Let me look at you all in the face and tell you that you're horrible parents and you're not as good as me.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
you can go check my Instagram. I just made a movie with her and her friends at the beach this summer. I'm out here making movies. You know why? Because I have the skill to do it. You know all these regular bum parents that don't know about technology? We are a panel of technologists. You should, and Christina, you should be doing it for a family member. You should be like, look, I know you don't know what you're doing. Send me the video. I'm gonna make a montage of the kids. Be better parents. Don't tell me about that you're not making these. I'm still making videos, okay?
You're selfie dad. Right. You're good. You're
when
making
she grows
all
up to
those
be
kids
president of the United States, my girl's gonna look good in these videos. You ain't gonna see these little stupid hair flipping up, not looking videos. You know, I got to train. I'll be like, look, no smile or smile, because we sometimes we got to look grown. You know what I'm saying? Get yourself together and be better parents. Use that technology. Oh, PSA, last thing. For real though, if you have a grandparent or a parent, you should go and take your phone, and even if you don't do video, do audio recording. Ask them where they grew up. Ask them what their first job was. Ask them about their parents, where they lived, what they did. My grandmother passed away, and I've got audio tape about my great-grandparents that I'll never meet, never know, and I got information about where she went to school, her first job, her first date. I did the same thing with my dad, and he passed away, and now I've got that for my granddaughter. You got all this technology. If you're watching and listening to this, you're a better person than most people when it comes to technology. Do something useful. Stop taking the selfies and talk to the people that made you and find out where you came from so you can have some records. I know y'all ain't as special as me, but pretend that they're special and interview them anyway because you love them.
That is a great
it's a
PSA.
great idea.
So
it
good.
It is. I did that with my grandmother in 2012 when my grandmother was terminally ill, and we spent 3-4 hours, and it's funny, like I was there just interviewing her and sort of doing the journalist thing of like asking her the questions that everybody wanted to ask but never did, and so and she was perfectly happy to answer it. And it's like funny, the longer we were there, like the more like people kept coming to over to visit, and like everybody would stay, and by the end it was like she was holding court and for like 3 or 4 hours. I expected it to be like 30 minutes or something, and but because of that, we learned so much more about her and about our family and about America and the way it's changed, and especially for women, because she was a working woman like in the 1950s, which a lot of people in our family had no idea of. All kinds of things, and that 4 hours of doing that is one of the best things I've ever done with technology in my life. One of the best uses is doing something that now the rest of our family really treasures, and other people will know her, even though that never knew her. And so it's super great idea. Best PSA of the day. I
haven't done it yet, but I downloaded the StoryCorps app for my kids to interview my mother-in-law, because I think it would be really neat. She's 86 and lived through World War II in London, and I just think it would be so neat to have them record that. And what's nice about that StoryCorps app is that it also provides suggested questions if you're not sure how to get, because sometimes if you just say like, tell me your life story, it can be really dry, and I moved here and then I moved there. But these are questions like, what was a time that you felt happiest in your life? Or so it's just some really things. So nice PSA, Doctor. I appreciate that. Now I think I'm really loading up for the next story, which is really leading us in the completely different direction to an epic rant. Not that you haven't done that already, Owen. I'm opening the door for some more here.
The chat room thinks I've had too much coffee. I just been packing all week and I haven't had much sleep, and I'm excited to be on here with such lovely people. It's okay. I'm gonna be all right. I'm not gonna explode.
You
and
need
that
to
Elon
vent.
thing
That's
always
all right.
sets me off. Elon.
I'm going to tee Christina up for this next one because this story, I covered this week. A venture capitalist from Santa Barbara, a member of Rincon Partners, he wrote an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, and he suggested that if women want equal treatment in the VC world, I'll quote here. He said, in your LinkedIn profile, Twitter account, email address, and online correspondence, use your initials or unisex name, implying that you should hide your gender, and eliminate all photos. So basically what he went on to say is that there is so much implicit bias against women in technology that you should hide your identity, hide the identity of any women on your team if you want equal treatment and equal funding. Yeah, even I was shocked. I couldn't believe that this is happening in 2016. I also couldn't believe that this would be published in the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah, I mean, if I can be honest, I wasn't that surprised that the op-ed was published on the editorial page of the Wall Street Journal. I mean, they whatever their standards are. I mean, I was surprised and I wasn't surprised. I saw it and I read it, and like everyone else, I was incensed and I couldn't believe that someone would actually have of course, people think those things, but it's shocking that someone would actually not only write it, but write it in such a way he thought he was giving great advice.
Ugh.
He thought he was helpful.
Doctor, you have a visual point that you'd like to make here?
I'm just trying to turn up the contrast because I, as a black man, also have that problem in the tech community. So I figured if I turned up the
Doctor
contrast,
has toilet paper over his head, over his face.
I'm just trying to get as light as possible. My name is very Caucasian. So when I call people and they say Owen Stone, then I show up and they're like, Omar? And I'm like, no, it's Owen. I got you. You thought it would be Omar, didn't you? But it's Owen. See, my dad knew what he was doing when he named me that. It's a deplorable thing. It's disgusting. It makes me so sad. I'm raising a ninja. She has been told two things since birth. You have to become an engineer, I don't care what kind, and you have to have 2 black belts if you want to date, because the world is against women, and especially if you double that up and put some tan on it, it's even worse. But the fact that someone would say this to a woman means, why don't you yell at the people who treat the women this way instead of telling the women to be something different than they already are, which is powerful in their own right. Well, and if you just gave them a chance, maybe they'd take your job. I don't know. You scared? You scared of women?
And also, let me just say this. This is a guy who's a venture capitalist. And so he's someone who's part of the problem. And rather than saying, and instead of saying, I can be open to my own, implicit biases, and I can look at how I view things and maybe be open to, viewing things in a certain way. He's saying, no, actually, you know what? There's no way that I can overcome my own objections and my own, I guess, thoughts of what a female engineer is. And it wasn't just women. He was also basically implicitly saying anybody who was different religions too. There was that aspect to it too, which was really gross. Anybody who had a different name, anybody who had a seemingly different background, basically hide it and be as, white male as possible is basically what he was saying. Rather than saying though, that he can be part of the solution and be open to meeting people who have different backgrounds, he's saying, no, actually the only way you're going to get a meeting with me is if I go by Chris Warren, and the only way I personally be able to get a meeting with him is if I went by Chris Warren and I switched my Twitter handle. I could no longer be film_girl, because that wouldn't work, and would have to hide every part of my identity. And that would be, use generic photos on your team page. And that's the only way you're going to get a meeting. And it's just so gross. I mean, it was interesting because his partners at his VC firm, which I've never heard of, but, they're small, immediately disavowed him and were like, we don't stand by anything he says. And he, of course, was forced to apologize 2 days later. And basically, the Wall Street Journal has now attached that apology to the op-ed, but it's still there. But it's insane to me that he thought that it was okay, not only to say, but as advice. I mean, I think he genuinely went into this in a place where he thought that this was good advice, where he thought, the real solution here, because there's no way that the people in these decisions who are making decisions to give money or to hire people or whatever, there's no way they can go over themselves. So what you have to do is you have to trick them. And how demoralizing for anybody who's trying to raise money or anybody who's trying to get a job to hear that this is what people who are making those decisions, and these are people who are in positions of power think. But it's gross and it's grotesque. And I mean, there are a couple of initials that I could use to describe my response to him.
F.U. Warren.
Basically. Basically.
It's like look as white and male as you possibly can. Done. Good advice. It's like
Sarah Lacey pointed out, I think it was Sarah Lacey who pointed this out on Twitter, that neither he nor his firm has a great track record funding women.
Shocker.
Yeah, amazing. And I think the guy issued what may be the fastest apology in Twitter history, which is so interesting the way he did this. So let me read the apology first. It says, "I apologize for the dreadful article I wrote in the Wall Street Journal. I told women to endure the gender bias problem rather than acting to fix the problem. I hurt women and I utterly failed to help. I wholly regret. I apologize. Women have a tough enough time having their voices heard, and my insensitive comments only made matters worse. I'm truly sorry, John." What's so amazing about this is it was a picture that he posted.
Yeah.
And so what I'm trying to figure out, is it because he wanted more characters or because he didn't want the text searchable?
Okay,
that's a great point.
So I believe it's because he wanted the full text shown. I believe that whatever amazing female PR person that wrote that for him suggested that he do that. I don't give him credit or smart enough compensation or consideration to even figure out that conversation, whether he should have the text searchable or the picture. I assume that someone told him what to do and he copied and pasted or slid his laptop over and let them do it, because obviously he's not smart enough to do what he's supposed to do. So first of all, if you're a man, then be a man. You having to apologize that quickly shows the fact that you were just insensitive and stupid, because
you never should have written it to begin with.
The position that you were in, and you want to write an article. Here's how you write an article. I am a man. I'm a white male in a white male-driven industry, and I feel that women aren't being serviced enough in this community. So myself and my team are looking for women to pitch things to us so we can reach out to you in the community to help you. And we are looking to hire 3 female engineers for the companies that we've invested in, because we believe that opportunity is the way to help you lift yourself up. You could have said that, been a hero, probably got 2 girls to ask for your number. But instead, women around the world hate you, and I hate you, and I think you're a moron, and so does the PR person that you paid 20 grand to thinks that you're stupid too. You doofus magoofus. I can't.
I think the thing is it reminded me of, it's a bit of an extreme example, but it reminded me of the thing like in college, right? You go to college and there's all these things, or at least this is the way it was when I went to college, which has admittedly been a while now. There was all these things about, here's how you avoid being sexually assaulted, right? When in fact it's like, well, how do we teach people not to sexually assault others? Exactly. The message is, tell people, do not sexually assault someone. No means no. If the implicitly.
Yeah, the conversation should be, why is it such a white boys club? Not how can we sneak into the white boys club?
Precisely, and I think that the fact that it's even was tamed this way, and there's some people who in the chat who are even saying, "Oh, I think it was good advice." No, it's not good advice. It's terrible advice because it doesn't solve the fundamental problem. Yes, the problem is there. Yes, there is implicit bias. Yes, it's getting worse and not better because fewer women are graduating with CS degrees. We should be looking at all of these things and talking about that, and not saying, "Well, we got to trick the system to get into the door," because instead we should be having serious conversations about why every other industry has more female graduates and is becoming closer to parity, except for computer science, except for tech. And the whole notion of a meritocracy is clearly false because it's not true. And there have been studies that show that when you have female founders, companies actually do better. So if it were really about showing things like that, then you would have VC funds that would want to hire more women. Instead, you have people, including I don't want to turn this political, but presidential candidates who are saying things like, well, it's an inconvenience for the business to have someone who's pregnant. And you have these things that are happening in this world. To have an article written in the number one, business newspaper in the country, to be on the op-ed page, front and center, saying, yeah, sorry about that. You need to hide everything about yourself. And that's the only way you can maybe trick your way to get in. Maybe that's okay. It's not good advice. It's insulting.
Shocking to me. I didn't realize someone who actually is doing something positive this week, Melinda Gates, interviewed in Back Channel. She said, when I was in school in the 80s, she's a computer science major, women got about 37% of computer science degrees and law degrees then. Law went up to 47% now. Computer science is now 18% from 37% in the 80s.
Yeah.
I had no idea that it had gone down that much.
It's gone, absolutely. I mean, part of it's hard to do one-to-one because there are a lot more graduates in computer science now versus 30 years ago, but it's more than halved, and it's depressing. And I think a lot of it comes down to people feeling as if it's a couple of things. I think that early on, before it was seen as a prestige degree, you would see a more even mix. Even in the 70s, when it was still kind of starting out, you would see, computer science was just starting out. You would see more even numbers, and into the 80s. And as it became higher paying and more of a prestige degree, you started to see women get pushed out. And less of an interest. And I think you see it a lot of times from recruitment from high schools, from middle schools. That's why having, organizations like App Camp for Girls and programs that are encouraging, girls at a young age who are interested in coding and having an outlet to do that are important, so that they already have those skills when they're starting out. Dads like Owen who are encouraging their daughters at a young age to do whatever they want, because there is a thing where people are told, or girls are told, and I know this as a girl who was coding when I was younger, where people look at you weird and they think that it's odd and they discourage you. And I know what it's like to be in computer programming classes where you're the only female and there is microaggressions.
I mean, when I was taking just the introduction to computer science doing my master's, I can remember being in the lab at midnight. I was the only girl there. I was so frustrated. And that place when you're coding and you're trying to figure out, how do I get from point A to point B? And I feel like I'm at a total roadblock. And you need people with you that you can turn to. And it helps when, just to be explicit, like there are other people like you who you're like, I'm confused. And you feel intimidated because you're a woman and you're like, I should be getting this. And I just remember that being the real thing. Going back to this Melinda Gates thing, she has said that she's going to take 2 years to apply everything she's learned through the Gates Foundation and all the philanthropy that she's done, and she's going to apply resources that she has at her disposal to collect data on this issue of women. She specifically said women. I don't know if she said women and minorities. I'd like to know more about that. But collect data on why gender inequality in the workplace, especially around computer science, is such a prevalent thing. So somebody who didn't get it, who got absolutely beat down by the internet, somebody who does get it and has a ton of money to put at it. Hopefully the result is right and the direction is right. But man, not a great week for that.
One more thing for everybody who is saying that he did someone a service. There's a basic point of, besides all the things that Christina said that were right on point, here's the basic core of something. If you want a job, the best thing to do when you go for that job, or if you want money, even worse than a job, when you go for funding, you're asking somebody for money. The best thing to do is not lie. Okay? So when they ask about the numbers of the product and how many people you got signed up for, it's best not to lie. Because if you come in as a white male and I thought you were a black female, we got a problem. I'm not going against gender trans. You can be whatever you want to be in America, I guess. But I'm just saying, you can't lie to me about it. So any which way you put it, that was horrible advice. Hey, I need $5 million in funding. Well, how can I trust you when you tricked me to even get this interview? You should have just had all the doors slammed in your face, because people get turned down not only for not being a woman or a color, but sometimes your idea just sucks and then one person falls for it and gives you money when they shouldn't have. I'm just saying, you can't go around lying to people and then ask for a job for money. Just crappy advice all around.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Sorry. Last two thoughts on it was, I think the most effective thing that has helped this issue that the larger tech industry is coming around to is that the tech industry is so much more crucial to the future of the economy, to the future of human progress, to the future of people on this planet, right? And by and large, you have so many of the products that are being designed by these teams dominated by males and with very little diversity. And the problem is you can't build great products if you don't understand your audience, right? And so if you have a group that has very narrow experiences, they are not going to build as effective products. And that argument is finally like, oh, now we get it, right? Like that makes sense to us. And so I do see people who have been really reluctant and had their feet dug in on this issue, softening up and finally realizing we've got a problem and this is, the solution to that problem.
Ask Snapchat how that works out for them, having not enough people of diversity on their board when they make these stupid decisions they make every once in a blue moon.
Exactly. And the list.
You mean like blackface filters? Yeah.
Yeah.
Asian filters. I mean, like
all of them are terrible. Yeah.
Yeah.
And finally, it's coming around, right? Some of these companies are realizing they are seeing Snapchat. They're seeing even Apple with its emoji, and the problem is there, right? And they're realizing why this is a bigger problem and why it's a responsibility problem if you're designing products for a global community, and eventually it will become a financial problem as well if they don't figure it out. For the companies that don't, because some will, and then those companies will be the ones that succeed ultimately in the future. I'll just stop it there. I had another thought, but I know we need to move on to other stuff.
Epic rant twit. I love it. We are going to move on. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and talk about Disney possibly working with Twitter on a bid, and a couple of the cool things that our folks here are working on and have been working on this week. So Leo is here to guide us through yet another sponsor for This Week in Tech.
We'll have more with our Twit panel in just a second. I will be back next week, by the way, but thank you very much for filling in for me and doing such a great job. Our show today, as it has been many, many times before, brought to you by Wealthfront. I am a big, big fan. Ironically, I'm a customer of almost everybody else who does ads on this channel. I cannot be a customer of Wealthfront. I wish I could. It's driving me nuts. But the financial regulations, SEC regulations, say that a customer can't do an endorsement for a product. This, just something in the financial sector. I don't know why. So when we started doing these ads, I said, oh, great, I can't wait to sign up. Wealthfront said, no, you can't. So Wealthfront, anytime you want to stop, let me know. But meanwhile, you can do it, and let me tell you why you want to do it. Everybody should be doing, saving for the future, right? Retirement. Trust me, I didn't expect it. It comes, it happens. Rainy day fund, you got to have one of those. College funds for the kids. I got 2 kids in college. Thank God I saved. Problem is, I was one of those smart keisters. One of those guys who said, oh, I'll do it all myself. Read all the books and invested. And then life, you get busy and didn't pay any attention for years, decades. And suddenly it was like, well, boy, that didn't. Should have gotten out of that one. Plus, frankly, you can read all you want, but there is a real art to doing good investing, and that's why I love Wealthfront. Now, a professional investment advisor is going to charge you 1%, 2%, or 3% of what you have under investment every year. That means you have to make that much more just to break even. And then there's hidden transactions and stuff. Wealthfront does it so much better because Wealthfront is computerized. It's automated. They put all the smarts, frankly, more smarts than a lot of investment advisors have, into the software. But you don't pay the same. You pay 1/4 of 1%. 1/4 of 1% a year. And there's never any additional fees, no transaction fees or anything. And unlike a human or yourself, they're monitoring your investments every minute. So they're, even within a day, they're going to reinvest, diversify, do something called tax loss harvesting, which I still haven't got my head around, but it maximizes your returns while minimizing your tax bill. I mean, this is smart stuff. that needs to be done constantly, and no paid advisor or you is going to do it this way. This is what's so great about computers, and this is why Wealthfront consistently returns great returns for its customers. I want you to check it out. Wealthfront.com. No need to invest, just read. They have a $529 college savings plan now if you're saving for the kids or the grandkids. Of course, all sorts of long-term things. One of the things you can do is you go there and answer the couple of questions they'll ask any new customer about time frame, risk tolerance, all that stuff. And then they'll design a portfolio for you, the same one that they would invest for you. But you don't have to, you just take it with you. It's free. Say, thank you very much. Bye-bye. So do that anyway. They'll also look at your current investments and see where you're losing money in fees, how diversified you are, how your tax strategies working out, things like that. So it's a lot of information there for free. Wealthfront.com/twit. If you decide to invest, and believe me, I would be if I could, it starts with $500. But here's the deal. I would put in, and you don't have to do it right away, but over time, $15,000, because that is fee-free. The first $15,000, free forever, not for a year or two or whatever, just free forever. So now that's a great way to kind of kickstart your nest egg. I love these guys. Wealthfront.com/twit. I can invest, but you can, so please do. Wealthfront.com/twit. We thank them so much for their support of This Week in Tech. Now back to the show.
Leo Laporte on a boat somewhere off the Danish coast, but Becky Worley here manning the twit table. We have an amazing panel, and guys, I don't know. I didn't realize that Leo's table, watch this, it goes up and down at the push of a button. Did you guys know that?
Wow.
Look at that. Can you hear it? It's going, like right now it's right around like my armpits, and then I can bring it down. Oh, there, it's going all the way up. Is that cool or what?
That's so cool.
Does it stop at becoming a standing table?
I don't think it goes all the way to standing, but knowing Leo, I think he'll have that on the agenda coming up. I want to dig into this story about Twitter. We've gotten the news. It's been very clear in the last few weeks that Twitter is for sale. They were looking for someone to come in and save the day. And this week, the big news is that Walt Disney Company, working with a financial advisor to evaluate a possible bid for Twitter. Salesforce also considering it, possibly. It's been bandied around about some of the phone companies. I'm a Disney employee. I don't speak for them. I don't know anything about this. But I got to say, I kind of think the Disney thing makes sense. Does it make sense to any of you?
Yeah.
No, it's going to be Google. It's going to be Google. It was always going to be Google. It's going to be Google. It's just a matter of when. Google's waiting until it gets enough to do it.
I mean, that's been my gut thought feeling too. Jason and I have also thought that the Google makes the most sense from a data standpoint, and the fact that Google has no play in social, and this would at least get some of that. I think that they already have the partnership with the search results. I think that from a data play, it would make sense for Google, but I don't think it'll ultimately be Disney, but I understand why Disney as a media company would be looking into this. And
agreed.
I understand why they would be kicking the tires. And I think a lot of people think Disney, they think, movie studio, they think, theme park company. They don't think, the same company that, bought Maker Studios and has made a lot of other investments, and that it is a really, really big media player.
ESPN? Is there any more of a second screen component than for sports?
Oh, completely. No, you're dead on. I mean, I think that ESPN alone would be a huge part of it. And they've already done, partnerships with ESPN, and they've done partnerships with ABC too. There've been a lot of partnerships on that side. But I think just from a media entity standpoint, I could understand why they would at least be interested in looking at it. I guess where my question would be, and this is why this is not what I'm in. I'm a journalist. I'm not an M&A, but I would be wondering whether it would be worth spending, potentially, like $10 or $11 billion to make that sort of acquisition.
Well, I have one theory on that, which, a lot of people just said this doesn't make any sense. Why would they do that? And I can see some economies of scale, because I think you could use the pre-existing ad sales folks at a big, huge conglomerate like Disney with economies of scale to sell and monetize advertisement on Twitter in a different way. I'm not advocating for that. I'm just saying I can see where that makes sense, because you've already got that in play.
It's just not a good media business, though. Sorry,
I guess my question would be on that. I mean, I agree with you. There would be definitely some ad components there, but you're talking about 300 million users. Is that enough where you're ever going to get your return on investment for making that sort of overlay if you're Disney?
But does it future-proof you? I mean, I think that's what every company who's looking at Twitter, except for Google, is looking for some sort of future-proofing.
The future of that business is a data business, though. Like, that's why Google makes sense. It makes sense for nobody else. The advertising business is not good enough. Their numbers, you look at their numbers. I know we're not a financial show, but if you look at their numbers are not good enough. They're never going to be good enough because they don't know enough about their users. And so that's why Facebook just eats their lunch in that sort of social advertising space. Facebook also, their self-serve business, Facebook has turned it in, has greased the wheels on that, and is just crushing them in that. Their advertising business is not good enough. Their data business, the future of that business is a data business. It is such a gold mine of real-time data, and somebody, they haven't figured it out themselves. They need a partner to figure it out themselves. That's why Salesforce might make sense, because Salesforce, the only reason Salesforce is interested is Salesforce knows the future is a data business. Yeah.
Salesforce doesn't have the money to do it, but you're right. I mean, Salesforce would have to get a huge amount of other capital. They'd have to do some sort of either do an all stock deal, which the investors at Twitter would never approve, or they'd have to basically work with somebody else to make a big bid. But I mean, Disney definitely has the money. Google definitely has the money. I don't know. It's interesting because I think that but don't you think, Jason, and all of you guys, I guess, doesn't this speak to kind of, I guess, one of Twitter's core problems, which is on the one hand, it is kind of this, data service. It is kind of this social service. It is data, which is why Google will be interested. But fundamentally, the way we interact with it and the way that it's portrayed to all of us is it is a media entity. And I think that's probably why the company has struggled as a public company to make money and to really even gain traction, because they sell these two different parts. They sell the messages, these two different parts. Oh, we're just a fire hose. But at the same time, we're also, a media entity into ourselves.
Well, a couple of things. One, why hasn't Google bought them already? Maybe the price isn't right. And
totally.
And number two, the issue with Twitter is it's become the zeitgeist of our society. It's when you watch any TV show or news program, they're going to say, well, this just blew up on Twitter overnight. They might say it blew up on social media, but because Facebook is segmented just to the people that your experience may be very different from someone else's depending on how your friends skew. But Twitter is ubiquitous and open to everyone, and so it has become this pulse that's taken, and I feel like that has a value in the news world.
Can I jump in here?
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry. Go ahead.
I want the football fan to weigh in.
So first of all. Google is evil and they destroy social. I'm not going to get into deep about that. They got the pockets, but they don't have the fortitude unless they're just going to let somebody else run it, which obviously you can't really do that because Twitter doesn't run itself very well. Then we got Disney. I think Disney's also evil because then they got to play with all these other corporations, and they're not super nice when it comes to that, and they're going to censor stuff. And not for nothing, I like being able to see whatever I want to see on Twitter. I'm not saying I'll be on Twitter after dark. I'm just saying it's available for those who want to see it. So I don't really want the Disney parent company, cookies and cream, to come and take that over. Salesforce seems like the best option to me, even though they ain't got the money. But maybe they pair it up with Amazon, get some of that back fund and put it up in the cloud, get that free hosting. Maybe that would be a great deal. I don't know. I'm just saying I don't want ESPN, all that stuff has already got the deals. That's cool. But I don't need Disney getting involved and watering down my Twitter. And I don't need Google getting involved and Googleizing it and killing it like they do. Because we need Twitter. Twitter is the essence of life. And it's one of those
Twitter's going to get sold. Somebody's going to buy it.
Somebody's going to buy it. I'm just giving my opinion on who should and shouldn't buy it, why I don't like it. I'm just saying.
But can you agree with this, Owen? But can you agree with this? I would much rather Disney buy Twitter than Tencent. Okay, if I'm being real, I don't want a Chinese media conglomerate, Chinese media group, because that's who else it's going to be. It's going to be Saudis or Chinese or something like that. That's who's going to buy it if it's not Disney or Google or some other big U.S. media conglomerate. That's what it's going to be. And if you want to talk about censorship, if Tencent buys it, it's going to be way worse.
Turn is a real possibility too. That they are going crazy over there, and they're printing money, and they know how to turn these things into business. They put so much into it. But I do think, to your point, Becky, Twitter is the real-time internet. It has cultural value. It has so much future value. It is the pulse of the world. And that real-time data, it is sitting on a data set that has never existed in human history, right? What are people saying, thinking, doing, believing about what's happening in the world right now? That has tremendous value to markets. It has tremendous value, that data. The value of that data, I wish Twitter had figured this out themselves, because if they had, and I've written about this, I've written at least 3 editorials about this in the last 3 or 5 years. If that it is a data business, if they had figured that out, they would have reopened the API, and they wouldn't have tried to control it and turn it into an advertising business. It's a war they can't win. They already lost that to Facebook. If they had done that, they could have been bigger than Facebook. They could have been Google. I feel like in many.
I don't think they ever could have been bigger than Facebook. I don't think they ever could have been bigger than Facebook, because I think that the
money. Why can't Mark
I also think that
he stopped just playing with drones for like a week and just take that week's worth of money and just buy it?
He
doesn't need it. He doesn't need half the stuff they buy. They just be buying stuff.
But he gets absolutely nothing from it. Like, he genuinely gets nothing from it. Everybody who's on Twitter is on Facebook. He gets absolutely nothing from it, and he's making it dilutes his ad business, because now he's trying to sell an ad product to people where he has certain CPMs for Twitter and certain CPMs for Facebook. There's no way that would make any sense. But I agree with you, Jason. I think that this kind of points to a lot of strategic missteps that the company made when they started to kind of close themselves off from being kind of the pipe into trying to do this other stuff. But it makes me sad, though, because I love Twitter, and I know that not everybody uses it, and that's part of the problem too. It's only 300 million users, but it has become much more outsized, I think, other than its user base in terms of its impact on culture and on news. And that, I think, is why you have media companies interested in it, media conglomerates interested in it, and looking at spending that money, because if nothing else, they want to preserve that as a source, to get information out, and also seeing the data potential, to potentially capture what people are doing.
I hate when we have to talk about Twitter like it's dead or about to die sometime tomorrow. Twitter is here forever. Twitter is like a STD with no cure. Like, it's just going to be around. You might forget that you have it, but everybody knows you got it. Like, Twitter is there. It's not going anywhere. People on Twitter. Don't you tell me, Twitter, I need you.
There is no prophylactic against Twitter. I hear you. I hear you. I'm gonna take this conversation, because I love it, and I know that we all could go off on Twitter and all of its possibilities. I'm gonna take it and redirect us to a couple of the headlines that hit later in the week. This one: the United States no longer controls the internet. That was the exact headline to convey the idea of the DNS handoff. Department of Commerce giving control of to the Internet Corporation for assigned names and numbers, so that all of your naming issues will now no longer be a U.S. government sanctioned event. Is this a big deal, you guys? Do we care?
Yeah,
I think it's time.
I'm usually such a positive person. I feel like I'm going to be Mr. Negative on this one, this whole episode.
The sun has set on your setting, so
it's
go
true.
ahead and feel that Dr. Evil now.
So, in principle, like, this has been in practice or in process, I should say, for a long time. In the ICANN thing. And in principle, absolutely, the internet is an international thing. It should have an international organization running it, right? But here's the problem with that, is the internet, fundamentally, the most important thing about the internet is that it remains open. And we all agree on that. Well, at least all of us here, right? And that. And so my concern with what we're doing is that if it goes to an international body where all of these players, essentially these international bodies, they try to make compromises to everybody involved, because there's a lot of people with different values who are trying to have buy-in, right? As long as the ICANN was in the United States, the U.S. sort of there were certain things that it was going to defend, like it was always going to be open. That's not a question, and the U.S. I feel like is the best defender of that for its all of its other faults in the United States and the other challenges we're dealing with right now. There's that. My
and just to
concern-
interject there, Jason, I mean, you're not alone. There was a last-minute bid here to keep the control in the U.S., led by Ted Cruz, amongst others. And his quote was, imagine an internet run like many Middle Eastern countries that punish what they deem to be blasphemy. Imagine an internet, he went on to say, run like China or Russia that punish or incarcerate those who engage in political dissent. Is that your worst case scenario here? And we're talking about, and just to back out of this for a quick second, we're talking about the organization that takes a name like twit.tv or what have you and assigns it the numbers that then get it to the computer that serves up the website. So there is a potential where if someone really didn't like what a website was doing, it could redirect that. Is that that's your worst case scenario?
So, yeah, Ted Cruz is a maniac, so I'm sorry to agree with Ted Cruz on this, but there is actually some truth to the fact of, you look at what they're doing in places like Turkey and in China and in Egypt, where they feel like to control uprisings, to control their populations. They feel like they have the right to control the internet in their country, right? And so far in the history of the internet, that has not been allowed, or to the best of to what we can control, it hasn't. But where it's an international body, I just worry who's going to stand up and say, no, open. We're if all of a sudden it's made up by a lot of competing interests. In principle, it should be run by an international body. I just don't know if in the world that we live in today, people are going to stand up and stand up for the openness of the internet to the same extent the U.S. does. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
You brought up Ted Cruz, so I just had to be devil's advocate and just say to you that there's a thing that Ted Cruz may have never heard of, but it's called the United Nations. It's where a whole bunch of people that run a whole bunch of stuff in a whole bunch of different places come together, sit down in a room, and yippity-yap with translate machines and come to decide on how things should be. I don't like that America is a bully. I don't like that America goes around the world telling other people what they can't do, because I don't really like, I've been to China, love China. I understand why China does what they do, but who are we to tell them what they can't do, and they don't have a voice or an opinion to come down to the table? It's not really fair. It's not really nice. I don't understand why we do it. America just gets away with it. I'm just saying it's not cool. And the UN can sit down and have civil conversations, come to certain agreements. And so I think it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, Ted Cruz saying what he's saying. It's not going to go that diabolical. He's saying it like they're just going to come in and just change the world. Well, if there's an international body, then they have to make these discussions and come to decisions together. That's how that would work. It's not just like you just I assume that's what they meant by an international group. No, I mean, that's the interesting thing is how the ICANN group is determined. I mean, it's government representatives, it's business representatives, it's tech experts, and just to represent what the chat room was saying is, in support of that was what you were mentioning, Jason, was during the Arab Spring and Egypt pulling the plug on their internet completely. It's not unprecedented. The question is how much diversity is on that group that can hold its own independently without the weight of a big superpower. And, I think it to be decided, but hopefully not an issue in the near future. I'm going to stop us for a second. A couple cool things coming up. Big problems with the iPhone 7, or maybe little big problems with Bluetooth. Little big problems. And a little bit about some security issues. I'm totally fascinated by these terabit DDoSs that are happening from Internet of Things devices. But first, we are going to look at what happened last week on the Twit Network and see what's coming up ahead.
Previously on Twit.
I'm getting attacked.
Keep him over there.
I'm literally collecting flies.
You are.
Home Theater Geeks.
This week, I'm in Petaluma, California at Leo Laporte's house. We are here to calibrate Leo Laporte's OLED TV.
The new screensavers.
We have Rob Reiner, who is starting the world's first bionic Olympics.
Man, that is so cool.
Where basically human and machine are one.
What we want to show with this is not only the best technology existing, we also want to show the problems still existing by applying these technologies. And in this way, promote the development of better technologies in the future.
Security Now.
As many as 500 million Yahoo accounts were breached sometime in the past, and they didn't tell anybody.
Well, okay, if I change my password, if I use a strong password, is that enough?
or do I consider my accounts dead now?
How do you feel about Yahoo? Does their behavior inspire confidence?
And that answer should be no.
Yeah, it really should be no.
Twit, making the world safe for technology.
Want me to try to get him? Sorry, I kind of got him.
She wasn't even aiming for the fly.
Sorry. Sorry.
That really hurt.
Sorry.
That was the past, and this is the future.
Hey, thanks, Becky. Here are a few things that we're going to be keeping a close eye on in the week ahead. And boy, what a week for events it is. Starting Tuesday, October 4th. First of all, that's a big day for Google. It has a hardware announcement that morning being held at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Google's expected to show off its new Pixel lineup of phones, Google Home, a 4K Chromecast, a new router, and possibly, just maybe, reveal its shift to Andromeda, which would be the long-awaited convergence of Android and Chrome OS. We're going to be doing live coverage that morning, so don't miss that. Also on October 4th, Dreamforce 2016, the annual event led by Salesforce, kicks off in San Francisco. Megan Maroney will, of course, be on hand to cover the big news from the event. That coverage will be published as a Twit special. Oculus Connect 3 Developers Conference kicks off on Wednesday, October 5th. I'm actually going to be in San Jose at the event with a crew to cover the event on Thursday, October 6th. So again, check out our Twit specials for all the neat VR stuff that I'm sure to uncover while I'm there. Also on October 5th, Apple will begin to show ads for competing apps when you run searches inside the App Store. That's part of its search ads program that's been in beta testing for a few months now. Ads for apps will be notated as such with a little blue badge, so there's no confusion. Megan Maroney and I will cover all of this and a whole lot more all week on Tech News Today. And wouldn't you know it, Becky? You're going to be on with us on tomorrow's episode. Really looking forward to that. All right, that's a look at the week ahead. Back to you.
You are correct. I will indeed be doing that. And as we look forward to the week, we got to take care of business. Leo here to tell us who is supporting this episode of This Week in Tech.
I just saw, thank you guys. We'll be back to the panel in just a moment. But first, I want to tell you about FreshBooks, longtime sponsor. I've been a customer of theirs for years as a freelancer. When I owned my own business, and that was just me, I used FreshBooks. It saved my life. And they just showed me their new platform, which is just now launching. Wow. They have gotten better and better and better. So what is FreshBooks? Well, FreshBooks, the idea is you're a small business, you're an individual owner. And you know, what's amazing is how many businesses don't even know if they're making a profit, don't even know where they stand, like accounts receivable, income booked, costs. They don't know any of this stuff. So FreshBooks makes all that easy. It's really designed around your invoicing because that's how you get paid, right? So if you make invoices and you get paid, this is going to simplify that process instantly. 30 seconds and you've got an invoice. Looks beautiful too. An invoice with your logo and all the information. You can also get the time and hours in there. It has timers on the app or on the website. They'll keep track of each project. You could even switch from project to project instantly. So you could do 3 things at once. And it's really, the new interface is fantastic. The dashboard shows you immediately. Am I making money? Am I losing money? What are my expenses? What bills have not been paid? You know, who owes me money? You see that right away. So no more mystery. And when it comes time to do the taxes, or you have an account and you want to bring them the books, they've got reports that every account, the P&L statement and all that. But you're not dealing at that level. Basically, the way FreshBooks works, you do the stuff you do and you need to do day in, day out, and it's automatically kind of keeping the books for you around it. And it all starts with sending out invoices, getting paid faster. You can have auto payment reminders. You can, if you have expenses, you could snap photos of receipts, put them in the expenses, bill people. You can get a project deposit, which lets you invoice for a payment up front so you're not out of pocket. I could just go on and on, but I think the best thing to do is try it by going to freshbooks.com and /twit, and you get a 30-day free trial. And I think if you've not used FreshBooks before, or even if you are using it and you haven't seen the new interface, do this. Awesome. Now, if you're existing customers, they'll give you a chance to migrate over time, or you can stick with FreshBooks Classic, they're calling it now. But this new interface is spectacular. freshbooks.com/twit. It is, you want to do what you do best. I just wanted to do, the shows. I didn't want to, the invoicing was, a necessary evil. keeping my books, keeping track of what's going on was a necessary evil, but it is necessary or you don't get to pay the rent. So this way I could focus on what I love and let FreshBooks do the hard stuff. It's so easy, so great. I think you'll love it. And it's beautiful. FreshBooks.com/twit. Try it. And if they ask you, where'd you hear about us? I think there's somewhere in the form they say that. Just write in This Week in Tech, would you? So they know where you heard it. Nice guys, too. They're Canadian, so you know they're nice. FreshBooks.com/twit. We thank them for their support. Now, back we go to this week's panel. And again, I'll be back next week. So thank you so much for doing such a great job without me. Do you want me back next week?
Yes, of course. Leo, come home. You guys can't see it, but Ozzy, Leo's dog, Lisa's dog, Leo's dog, is cruising the studio here looking for when mom and dad are coming home. Moving to, Christina, you said you were working this week on problems people were having with the iPhone 7, specifically with Bluetooth.
Yeah.
Interested in this?
Yeah, so we put out a call just to kind of see, if anybody thought that, if anybody was having any prevalent issues with the iPhone 7 or 7 Plus. I mean, I've got the 7 Plus and I've been using it since it came out. And I've had a couple of issues with Bluetooth. I know that a lot of people, that some people have too. My big issue has actually been with losing LTE signal. I'm a Verizon user, and my Verizon signal will sometimes just lose LTE and it'll come back to 3G. But if I want to get it back to LTE, I'll have to toggle airplane mode on or off. And I've got about 50 or 60 people who've also reported some connectivity issues with their iPhone 7s. But Bluetooth was the issue that I was started getting back just in droves. And so I don't know if this is an iOS 10 issue, because I know you were saying you had some issues with that or what, but a lot of people are having problems connecting their new phones to their cars. And so they're also having some problems, connecting it to other devices. And so, the Bluetooth just seems to be, the software seems to be having some problems. And so that's been something I've continuing to get emails about. I probably received, 30 or 40 of them this weekend, from additional people just saying, yes, I too am having problems connecting to Bluetooth with my new phone.
When I updated the software, it's not on an iPhone 7, but on my iPhone 6S, had trouble with the front door of my house because it's a Bluetooth lock and wasn't working. Which is a little disconcerting, I have to say. When it comes to stuff like your front door and getting into your house, it's kind of nerve-wracking. And it made me realize how tolerant I am of tech issues. But then when it comes to your actual home and what's going on, it's kind of like, oh, no, I don't think so. But yeah, had that issue. Were you also testing the cameras?
Yeah, we also tested the cameras, and I love the new cameras. We did a camera shootout between the Galaxy S7 and the iPhone 6S and the iPhone 7, and I think that for certain detail in certain situations, the S7 is a little bit better. But overall, our conclusion, I didn't do the test. Our reviews editor did, but I certainly this matches my experience too. I personally think that overall, the iPhone 7 just barely edges out the S7 camera, and is probably the best all-around smartphone camera on the market right now.
That sounds like you just tricked yourself how Apple does with things. You literally almost said that the Galaxy was a better camera, but you feel
in certain things
like
no, because color. Here's the thing. No. Color-wise, the iPhone is significantly better, and that's, for me, I think overall the better experience with the zoom. For certain detail things, with certain shots, with certain scenarios, you will get a better image with the Galaxy S7. But if you're taking overall like low light, bright light, overcast, just kind of the entire spectrum, they're close. But at this point, whereas it used to be like the S7 was not significantly, but was visibly better than the 6S, I think at this point that the 7, especially with its color accuracy, is better than the S7. They're close, but I think they just barely eked it out.
Well, maybe Apple should work on their magic and courage for their Bluetooth problems, because if you don't have a headphone jack, you're kind of screwed with all that magic and courage crap that they sold people on with their little crappy buds and all that junk. I do love
that irony. I do think that it's like the one thing you couldn't screw up would be your Bluetooth stack, and the Bluetooth stack, there's something wrong.
I have problems too. I can't get it connect to my car. It connects to my car in weird ways. The 7S does, and so it's giving me kind of fits.
Guys, I've been checking my watch through this because I feel like we've talked about this Apple issue. We've talked about the iPhone. We're 4.5 minutes in, and I think we've tapped out on all Apple issues that we need to discuss today. I just want to say it can be done. There you have it.
I will chime in one on the S7 versus. So my work phone is Galaxy S7 Edge. My personal phone is the iPhone 7 Plus. So I use both of them pretty regularly. There are some things that some photos that each one takes better pictures than the other. The S7, I feel like for close-ups and it gets detail really, really well. I feel like the low light, I've had a little better experience in low light with the S7. The iPhone 7 Plus, as you talked about, Christina, the color in that, the vibrancy of the color is pretty impressive. They obviously spent a good deal of time on that. The colors aren't quite as washed out. They're more vibrant, and so that's pretty cool. And obviously the zoom performance.
Which one's better, Jason? Make a decision. Get off the fence.
Man, I couldn't. But I tell you what, you have both of those. It's pretty amazing what a phone can do now. I think those two are both such a leap forward from their predecessors that if you have one of those two phones, you're feeling pretty stoked about the kind of photos you can take with a phone now.
Cameras continue to be such an impetus for upgrades, and I think that's just been consistent, and I think that will continue to be. It's definitely something that you think about just over time as you look at the quality of your phone pictures having increased. It's incredible. It's such a boom.
One of the challenges is those two companies, Samsung and Apple, they buy up all the good sensors. Apple,
nobody else can get them.
Exactly, so nobody else can get them. Sony, every time Sony comes out with a new sensor, Sony makes the best sort of small sensors in the world.
Yep.
So every time Sony comes out with a new sensor, Apple essentially buys the whole new lineup before anybody else can even get it. It's like the reverse flooding of a market. They completely corner the market of all the good sensors. And of course, Samsung can can do much of the same thing. But the latest sensors are in those two because those two just essentially buy up every latest sensor they can get a hold of.
A story that's been developing over the last little bit. On September 16th, Krebs on Security, a great site that really digs deep into issues of security, was taken offline with a DDoS attack. And it wasn't your average distributed denial of service. This was recording 1 terabit per second incoming traffic requests, which is unprecedented really in its volume. Akamai, which is their redundancy server. I don't even know if you call it that anymore. It's redundancy server. It's backup service. At a certain point told them we can't handle it. Even we are maxed out. So the site went down for a little while. And then Brian Krebs, I don't know if he petitioned Google or if they came to him, but they have this Google Shield program that helps to keep sites that have been taken offline through denial of service attacks. They came and put his site back on because only Google would have the server power and the bandwidth to be able to handle that. But what's really interesting is that I've seen numbers anywhere from 150,000 Internet of Things devices are the source of the incoming traffic, all the way up to 1 million IoT devices being the source of all this traffic. And what just happened, Krebs published Friday, is that the source code for this distributed denial of service attack using compromised IoT devices has been made public. And so we are only going to see more of this. It's called the botnet Mirai. And the scary thing, well, not scary, I don't want to get too much hyperbole in here, but the interesting thing is how difficult it's going to be to secure all of these devices. I'm a consumer reporter, and so I'm thinking, oh, this is a pretty interesting story. I don't want to get, it's only a denial of service attack. It's not like it's going to take down your bank per se, or at least your ability to get money out of your bank. But I just think, is this something that interests you, worries you? You see this as like a future trend?
Totally, right? I mean, this is what's so fascinating. I mean, I think that this, to me, like you said, you're a consumer person. I am too. And I think about, we've been talking about kind of the security of these Internet of Things devices for a long time, and kind of, I guess, trying to encourage people, make sure your routers are secure, make sure you have other things, you have good passwords on these systems or something else. But I think that the interesting thing is, even though you're right, it's basically just, kind of a botnet, a DDoS. It's right now, it's nothing potentially too inconsequential, but the fact that they can be weaponized this way, and the fact that it's going to be for a lot of these devices impossible for them ever to be updated to be patched. That to me is what's really interesting, because when things happen like Heartblade, when that happened a couple of years ago, a lot of people's concerns was, well, if this had happened when the Internet of Things era was broader, this would have been even more potentially bad. But now you see something like this where people are taking advantage of insecure devices, and okay, today it's a DDoS botnet, but tomorrow it could be something more sinister. And I think that it opens up a lot of questions about the fact that the security aspect for Internet of Things has never been at the forefront, and nobody's really focused on it. And people are buying these things and putting them in their homes and not realizing this has a connection to a server, to an internet. It's pinging something somewhere, and it's very difficult, if not impossible, for the regular user to even think about securing them. And a lot of times, the companies who are involved with making these devices don't care either. And so I think it opens up a lot of interesting questions.
Is this something I was looking up, can you secure password? That's not really the issue here. These were CCTV cameras that were being used in most of this attack. But if you think about it, there's a hugely long life cycle on a lot of these products because they're home products or things that we use more as utilities than necessarily as like gadgets that we're going to upgrade all the time. If the companies aren't doing security updates, well, then that leaves you with little recourse. And it's really hard to figure out if your device has been compromised. I mean, one of the things I was listening to Steve Gibson talk on Security Now, and he was saying that one of the only ways you can figure out if your device has been compromised is to check your traffic records, but then you'd have to know how much upstream traffic you were traditionally sending out, which how many people know that? It's crazy.
Doesn't everybody know that? You don't get a report? I get a bi-daily report. I'll hook you guys up my team. My fault. You guys obviously need to upgrade your life a little bit. It's okay.
I don't know. I was thinking about pitching this story to GMA and doing this as a quick news story, but then I also don't want to
unnecessarily freak people out. Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of one of those stories that's really interesting. It's a fascinating turn of events. We need to pressure security companies to do security upgrades, but then again, I don't want to be overly dramatic with a general audience.
And at the same time, people have to understand that a lot of things are going to be getting hacked in the future. The same way, like, the big hack that was a big deal for a lot of people that don't care about hacking is when Target got hacked. And all those... not to stereotype Target shoppers, but all of those women that signed up for that Target card so they can get their 5% off. I know a lot of people that are calling me up like, what's going on with this Target thing? People that never cared anything about a computer, but they heard about a Target hack and they freaked out and lost their minds. So it's something that people should just be aware of, that it happens. And usually they can take care of you and take care of the situations, but sometimes some bad things might happen in the future.
Yeah, this one's one to see if corporations figure it out and do the right thing. One more security story, the Yahoo data breach. So we're talking about 500 million accounts hacked.
So bad.
500 million accounts hacked.
How many were still active is the question, though.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, if it's even a third, I mean,
I know. I'm kind of being legit. I've got 3 Yahoo accounts right now that I haven't checked in 2+ years.
Why does that matter, though? Because if people don't change their passwords and they use the same logons, so it's
that's it right there.
blank blank at yahoo.com, it doesn't matter. And so a couple things here, just some updates. 6 senators wanting more details about the Yahoo data breach. The big issue, this happened in 2014. Yahoo only learned of it this past summer, but have only made this public recently. Senators annoyed about the timeline. Also, I think what's really interesting is that Yahoo's accusing a state-sponsored actor, but a security company, InfoArmor, they say that it has been sold, the whole entire database had been sold 3 times since it was compromised, including once to a state actor. But the hackers themselves, this is all from InfoArmor, this is their assertion, not corroborated by Yahoo, InfoArmor says the hackers are a private entity. And I think the New York Times did a huge expose, really, which is interesting here, that they said, created a comparison to Google, where after the Google hack in 2010, Sergey Brin doubled down on security. And they had this huge motto internally, never again, spent hundreds of millions of dollars, and security was a huge deal. And then at Yahoo, their security team is called the Paranoids, and they were pushed to the back because increasing security, creating any kind of two-factor authentication, even only recently having secure sign-ons, that was perceived of, assuming from Marissa Mayer, that this is going to make people stop using the company's product. And they were so desperate to hold on to users that they couldn't take that chance.
User hostile. I mean, look, good security can be hard, right? It can make things harder for users. It's why things like fingerprint scanners, right, where all of a sudden you scan that fingerprint, it's faster and easier than typing in a password, and it's also more secure because there's hardware encryption behind it. Those are the kinds of solutions we need for security, and two-factor authentication. I know that it's a little bit of a pain, but I encourage everybody to do it. Now that Twitter and Gmail, do it, like, everybody should be using two-factor. It's just a way of, it's like locking your front door. Everybody probably out there, unless you live way out in the rural area somewhere, probably locking your front door, right? Two-factor authentication is just like locking the front door.
Unless the Bluetooth on your phone that unlocks the front door doesn't work.
Well,
and the general conversation that locks are made for honest people. Thieves are going to get into things. The thing that always cracks me about these firms is, okay, so Yahoo didn't know until 2014, but this firm says that it was sold. So you know that it was sold 3 times? How do you know that? Where are you coming up with this information? Because I don't know. I'm not going to say I know a lot about the black market. I'm just saying sometimes the black market, people don't really talk about the things that they do. But you found out that it was sold, like, it's just amazing the things these people say when these things happen to try to, like, explain things to people. I'm like, I can't even trust it when I hear things like that.
Nor should you. I mean, I think so much of the problem we're in this country is that everybody trusts what they hear and they don't get two-factor verification on their news sources.
Critical thinking. Yeah, our education system teaches, learning how to answer tests, not critical thinking, which is a big problem. But that's a whole nother topic for another day. But I do think that, one of the challenges that we've got is with this era that we're going into, these products have got to be more secure, right? And the industry has got to be more secure. The tech industry has spent the last 2 decades focused on innovation, and security has been an afterthought. And that's why more and more you're going to see the companies that have security baked in. They're going to those are the products that companies are going to buy. And I'm speaking especially B2B market because that's what I spend a lot of time in. But the products that have user trust, the companies that have user trust that haven't been violated, haven't been had a major breach. Those are the solutions that are more in demand, and you can expect that to be the case. And all these things eventually, it's going to filter down to the consumer as well. That that trust with companies, it's going to be the same way with Samsung and their brand with things blowing up. It's going to be if there are brands that you hear about keep getting compromised, users are going to trust them with their data less and less. So this stuff is all big. It's all important. We wrote a big special report about this in September on Tech Republic and ZDNet about cybersecurity and the fact that this stuff has bigger consequences now because governments and public entities use these things. So it's not just using that money. It's not just something that you're going to lose money, but it's also a public safety risk. It's also potentially a national security risk. And so all of those things are super important. And we wrote about, them. We wrote about kind of this stuff of, how you can figure out if maybe your database is on the black market, right? On the dark web, going in there. There are ways that you can go in and try to figure out, like, has somebody compromised me? And are they trying to sell our customer data, on the black market? There are professional companies. They have HR departments, they have benefits, and they are professional hackers that go out and they hack companies, and then they sell that data now on the dark web. And so because it's big business and you can make a lot of money on it, you can make more money selling it on the dark web than you can actually selling a bug bounty to Google and Microsoft, and that's part of the problem as well.
We will take that as medicine for the future going forward. Guys, thank you so much. What a great day filling in for Leo Laporte and having the security blankets of three really great journalists and thinkers on tech and epic ranters on tech. Doctor, thank you so much. You were amazing today. The chat room thinks that you were on just an incredible rant and fiery, sort of just talented in your way today because you're so frustrated because you have to move house this week. So that's what they think.
It's been a stressful week. I haven't had sleep. So, love you, Becky. Love you, Chris. I love you, Jason. I love all you guys because you guys are fun. But the chat room, I'm the people's champ. I'm going to just tell y'all, if you got kids, we talked about this earlier, and this is legit, and especially if you got a daughter, Lord help you. Get her into science and tech as early as possible and make it fun for the kid and show the kid what they could be. My daughter, her mother's a teacher. My daughter came to me at 5 years old. She said, Dad, I want to be a teacher. I said, that's cool. Teachers don't make any money. You want to be an engineer. She's like, but I want to teach. I said, oh, you're going to teach all the teaching you want. But you become an engineer, one of the 30,000 kinds of engineers. Then you go teach engineering, get that professor's degree, get that 130,000, and then buy me my yacht that I need. Science and technology for your kids is the way of the future. You think your kids are going to have a job? They're not going to have a job. Not everybody's as charismatic as me can sit here talking crap about technology. Somebody's got to make the technology, and that's going to be your kid, or they're going to be out of a job. We don't make anything anymore. It's going to be robots. Somebody's got to design the robots. Somebody's got to program the robots, or a mechanic's got to fix the robots. That's your future. Uber, look at Uber. Uber had all these humans out here doing their work, and now they're going to replace them with robots. Talk to your kids and set up their future, and have your kid buy you a yacht. Care about the kids and technology, especially if you got girls. Get these girls in technology and science. Lord help me.
Oh, man. Unless your child is as fired up as Doctor, you better get him a STEM education. That's what I'm saying.
Promote myself. IQMZ.com. There's DocTales. There's IQMZ Text. There's all kinds of fun stuff. Go listen to me. I'm not yelling at people. I apologize for yelling so much. Next time, I will tone it down.
You are the best. I love it. Jason Heiner, where can people find you? You are such a voice of information, reason, and really enjoyed watching your yoga retreat turn into your kitchen.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. Twitter, I still love Twitter. As much as I was talking crap about Twitter, I still love Twitter. Come chat at me on Twitter, at Jason Heiner. I check it religiously. I love having conversations with people on there, so come check that out. You can also check out my book, followthegeeksbook.com. Thank you for putting that in my lower third. That's the book that I wrote about 10 really great people in the tech industry and co-wrote with Lindsay Gilpin. It's a lot of fun. And thanks for having me. I love being here. I also have a 10-year-old daughter. Her two favorite subjects are math and science, which is awesome, and couldn't agree more that it's like there's a brand problem, right? For sometimes with girls and women with tech is not seeing it as a very friendly place, and so it is our responsibility to change that, and something that we should all take really, really seriously.
Good dads doing good work and good role models over here. Christina Warren at Gizmodo, thank you so much for all your insight and knowledge. Where can people find your work?
Yeah, so you can find me at gizmodo.com, and you can find me on Twitter like Jason. I whatever issues I might have with some of their business decisions, I still love Twitter. I'm at film_girl. You can also find me on Snapchat and on Instagram, also film_girl. And if you like listening to hear me talk, I do a tech podcast with 2 other women called Rocket that comes out every Thursday on relay.fm. So check it out.
Thank you all. Another twit is in the can.
It's in the can.